At Kroger, fresh groceries are our thing, so we check your delivery order for freshness at every step from farm to store and pick and pack every veggie in your free pickup order with care, because we treat your food the way we'd want ours to be treated. We're fresh every day, so shop anyway. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Free pickup on orders of $35 or more. Restrictions may apply.
And right now, you can save when you shop your faves. Just buy 6 or more participating sale items and save 50 cents each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.
The following is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network.
Hello, this is Zack Sabre Jr., New Japan Cup winner 2018. And you're listening to Keepin It Strong Style with my mates. Enjoy.
Yo, this is Rich Latta from One Nation Radio. This is brought to you by the Social Suplex Podcast Network. We present to you the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Let's go. It's the Ace of Podcasts, Keepin It Strong Style. Covering New Japan, they ready to hold it down. Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Josh. Come and hit a job out and bury all the frauds. From the Tokyo Dome over to the G1. Social Suplex is the network where we can get it done. I'ma chill and let them have it, cause this is just an intro. Keeping the strong style, 6 stars from the get-go, boy. Yeah, from Tampa Bay to the Tokyo Dome, this is Keeping It Strong Style with your hosts, Jeremy Donovan and the young boy Joshua Smith. And thank you for listening.
Welcome to Keeping It Strong Style, the Ace of Podcast on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. Jeremy Donovan here with the young boy Josh Smith. On today's show, we'll review the semifinals and finals of the 2022 New Japan Cup and cover all this news in the world of New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can support our show by subscribing and following the Social Suplex Podcast Network or Keeping It Strong Style on the podcast app of your choice and leaving a rating and review. You can also get all the podcasts over at socialsuplex.com. Check out our Pro Wrestling Tees store, prowrestlingtees.com/socialsuplex. That's where you can get your official Keeping It Strong Style t-shirt. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider making a one-time or monthly donation by visiting socialsuplex.com/donate and clicking on the donate button under the Keeping It Strong Style logo. This week's episode is brought to you by the NJPW EXT, the only browser extension for NJPWworld.com. With features like dark mode, improved translations and layouts, custom and share playlists, synchronized viewing parties, and much, much more. It takes NJPW World to the next level. You can visit njpwext.us today for details. Young boy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. This is the first time since the monumentous purchase of my microphone for the show that we are looking at one another while we do the show.
Yeah, you busted out the laptop.
Well, they give me one from work. I don't know. I guess I could get in trouble for this. I don't know. I don't know the rules. Like I guess it's better to just ask for forgiveness than to ask for permission. But I do have a work laptop. I've never used it. What the deal was, I thought that I wouldn't be able to download software like Google Meets. I didn't realize you could just do it off the internet. You don't even have to download an app or anything when it's on a computer.
Right, yeah.
This shows you how untech savvy I actually am. So this whole time we could have literally been using this and one thing that people don't know is the way we were running it was the microphone has to plug into either a USB or it had these like little jacks that you could plug into either like the USB-C or like the old like Apple outlet before they switched to USB-C or whatever. And but the problem is like when you're running off of a device like that and you're plugged into the power outlet, it's also draining the power from the device simultaneously. So like I couldn't like have the camera pointing at me. I actually had to like use like one of those wireless charger gimmicks, and then sometimes like that would like fuck up the audio of the show, and then like we'd be scrambling, and I'm sure you were editing to all hours of the night. But this whole time I could have just been using this laptop. It's just been sitting here for years now.
Well, glad we got that working. Yeah, you sound way better on my end, and I think it'll be a better quality overall for listeners. So
yeah, well, I mean, that's really who I'm doing it for. If it was for you, I wouldn't even bother. Okay, This is for, all those listening.
Yes.
All those that what Stone Cold used to say? The working man.
Yeah. For the working man, take a swig of water, swig of beer for the working man, paying those gimmicks called bills that come in the mail.
That's what I was gonna say next. Was like those gimmicks called bills that never stop coming.
Oh man, but young boy.
Speaking of Stone Cold, this weekend, bro.
Yeah, WrestleMania weekend, the Texas Rattlesnake, big main event talk show segment to close off WrestleMania.
Former G1 participant, Stunning Steve Austin, making his return to the squared circle, Dallas, Texas.
Yeah,
Jeremy's got front row tickets.
I don't know all about that. I will be in Dallas WrestleMania weekend. I will not be going to any Vince McMahon's sports entertainment.
Are you gonna watch it?
Probably, because I am going to be staying with Floyd. Shout out to Floyd, host of All Things Elite, and his buddy JR, who's been on the show on All Things Elite last couple of weeks and kind of fills in whenever Austin can't make it. I'll be staying with them, but those guys, they are going to WrestleMania both nights. Why
don't you do Suplex Mania by yourself? Host the Suplex Mania party. Like, get up the promotional material. You got a few days to get this in. Make some calls. Find a Hooters out there. See if they got a manager who's a mark who will let us. Let you host a WrestleMania watch party and do live podcast. We did it before. I don't see why you couldn't do it again.
Yeah,
get Will Ospreay to show up, Jay White, and all those guys.
Well, I think Ospreay might still be in Japan, but yeah, we'll talk about WrestleCon a little bit later. But yeah, several New Japan guys will be there. Will be a part of WrestleCon. Obviously, the Lonestar Shootout, and they'll be doing meet and greets.
Call Rocky, bro. He'll bring Ishii and Suzuki. You'll be fine, dude. Well, actually, you know what you should do? You should hit up Rocky and just be like, yo, I'm here alone. What are you guys doing for WrestleMania? And I bet you he'd let you come chill.
Yeah, maybe I will do that.
You really should hit him up and just be like, yo, where are you guys watching Mania? He's like, I'm up in the nosebleeds, brother.
Oh, man. But before we jump into New Japan, Josh, I got to ask you a very important question.
Okay.
Will Smith, Chris Rock, was it a work or was it a shoot?
Oh, man. Okay. My opinion, I believe this was 100% a shoot. But I saw some pretty, me, I like to dabble in conspiracy theories now and then. Mm-hmm. And now these are not the thoughts and opinions of the young boy Joshua Smith. So don't come at me. This is stuff I'm hearing on TikTok, okay? There are those individuals out there that believe that Jada Pinkett Smith does not have alopecia at all. And that, she's just like basically shaving her head down. And then they were talking about how Pfizer was the official like sponsor for the Grammys. And they're unveiling a new alopecia drug like right now, basically. And what's like one of the number like one Googled and searched and trending like topics in all of the world, especially in the US right now, it's alopecia because of the incident with Chris Rock and Will Smith. So they're saying, could it be that the whole thing is staged to try and basically do like a viral marketing ad for Pfizer's alopecia medication? I could probably poke some holes in that, but there are people who think that, who've taken it this deep. They think that the work goes that deep.
Wow,
I didn't even know we were going to talk about this.
That is a pretty elaborate work, if that is the case. But
the best works are, i.e., Montreal Screwjob.
Yeah, I don't think this is a Montreal Screwjob situation. Like you, though, I do think it was a shoot. We had a couple comments here. Ghost of Doc Gonzo from Reddit says, calling it right now, Will Smith wins the G1 and faces Okada in the Dome on January 4th because it wouldn't be the 50th anniversary of New Japan without at least one Inokiism. And Hawaiian Punch TV says, it's Will Smith G1 bound after embracing Inokiism. What are your favorite Inoki slaps?
Oh man, my favorite Inoki slap is when he slapped the shit out of the Great Antonio and like, you know, beat the shit out of that man for real, like in a shoot. That was another shoot incident, and you know, the slaps that Inoki hit Great Antonio with were much more powerful than Will Smith's. I'll tell you that much.
For me, I just like whenever, you know, wrestlers have to line up in the ring.
Yeah.
And Inoki just bow. That's one after another.
There's that one really famous one from, I think it's like Pride or Pride Shockwave. So it's all the wrestlers, but then it's all the MMA fighters and all the like kickboxers, and they're all like having to sell for it. There's also a really famous photo. Well, not famous, but I saw a photo of, I don't even know where this came from, but it's Inoki and Will Smith in a dojo ring, probably out in LA at some point, and they're both doing the like New Japan chant together. And I'm like, you know, long form storytelling, basically.
This man, Will Smith's been in Inoki the whole time.
But you know, at first they do bits and stuff like that. I wasn't watching the Grammys, but when I first saw it and I saw him walking up and Chris Rock's like, oh boy, here we go. And then he slaps him. I did think it was a skit. I thought that there was going to be a punchline. I did not think that. And then he's like, Will Smith just slapped the shit out of me. And then I was like, well, maybe it wasn't a skit, but maybe they were just joking together. Because I was like, the slap didn't look real to me. Then when he's like, keep my wife's name. Like, oh no. Like, what is going on, bro? And I was like, oh shit. And then I rewatched the slap like 5 times and I was like, wait, I think he open hand slapped him, you know?
Yeah,
like for real. So I don't know.
When keeping it real goes wrong. Oh man.
I've heard every take under the sun, every single angle. And you know what? I think they're all right. I think every single angle that every single person has on every level is accurate. You know, what's that show that Impact's doing WrestleMania weekend?
The multiverse of matches.
The multiverse of Chris Rock and Will Smith at the Grammys. You know,
they're all right.
I see every angle and I agree with every single one of them on every level.
Oh man. All right, well, let's jump.
Nobody can ride a fence like me.
Let's jump into New Japan. Got a lot of stuff to talk about here tonight.
Jeremy, don't forget, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything, okay?
Well, let's stand and talk about this New Japan Cup semifinals. We had the semifinals on Saturday, March 26th. So we can run through the undercard here and then probably focus the majority of our time on the actual semifinal matches. Obviously, there are some story developments coming out of some of these undercard matches. So Night 14, March 26th, opened up with the Bullet Club team of Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, El Phantasmo, Gato, and Taiji Ishimori, defeating the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga, Tangaloa, 6 or 9, Wato and Gucci, and Hoshi Tanahashi, who were all accompanied by Jado. They won by disqualification, 9 minutes and 8 seconds, pretty much coming down to the end of the match. Gato had the brass knuckles. Jado wasn't going to let it slide. Jado runs in, starts attacking Gato. Ref sees the interference and calls for the DQ.
Yeah, you know, in a way, this was done kind of well. I know we complain a lot about a lot of the shenanigans and, you know, all the bullshitism and, you know, Togoism that's been taking place in this company. But we've always said that there's a time and a place where this sort of thing is appropriate. And in the middle of this kind of feud with this kind of heat where, you know, things are just kind of going haywire between GOD and Hantai versus the Bullet Club and all the like bullshit that they've kind of had to suffer under House of Torture and Bullet Club, you know, the fact that they're starting to kind of give them back a taste of their own medicine and try to get comeuppance on them, it's kind of working for me. The other thing I liked about it was that there was so much chaos occurring in the ring at that time that when Jado ran in, it completely escaped my mind that he wasn't even a legal member of the match. So I just thought it was another guy getting his shit in. And then the bell rang, and then I was like, oh fuck, like he's not even in the match. Like but he couldn't stand idly by and let the bad guys do to his boys what they were doing. So he kind of had to take matters into his own hands. And I don't know, for whatever reason, this kind of worked for me. I'm not going to sit here and say, like, you missed it, you need to go out of your way and watch it. But I think the crowd is really into this Bullet Club GOD storyline. And, considering how many beatdowns they've given to GOD and Jado over the tour, like, made sense to me. Man had it. He's up to here with it,
Yeah. Like you, I also too at that point of the match I forgot that Jado was not legal because like you mentioned on the whole tour, Jado's actually been in the tag matches and been eating a lot of the falls and been getting jumped throughout the match and stuff like that. So I thought, oh yeah, Jado's in the match. They call for DQ. I was like, oh yeah, just kind of like you, like, oh yeah, he's not in it. And I agree. A lot of times we do see the heels blatantly cheating, the refs distracted, and there'll be a second or a manager out there and just kind of standing there like scratching their head like, what do I do? And so yeah, it's kind of cool that you do have finally babyface guys like, I don't care if we get DQ, like this guy's cheating and I'm going to try and put a stop to it.
Yeah. On the commentary too, it was a really big deal to see 6 or 9 and God along with Jado and then Tanahashi all come out together, all come out to the same music. And then Kevin Kelly and Chris Charlton did a really great job of commentary, kind of just explaining the significance. Like, if you recall, the whole genesis of the Bullet Club at Dantaku all those years ago involved the feud that was going on between Prince Devitt and Hiroshi Tanahashi. And one of those formational members was Tama Tonga. So the fact that now we stand all these years later, literally, I don't even know, was that 2013 when that started? So almost a decade later, that, Tama Tonga and Hiroshi Tanahashi stand united against the Bullet Club. I know that it's not the same Bullet Club that we've come to know over all these years, but even still, I mean, for Tama Tonga's, personal storyline, that really like speaks volumes and kind of tells you, I think like Tanahashi giving him the stamp of approval is really like a stamp of like acceptance, especially for maybe those audience members that were still kind of like on the fence. And at this point, you could go any way with it. Now, I'm not saying they should do this because I'm not a big fan of it, but if hypothetically they wanted to like bring God back into Bullet Club and call the whole thing a swerve, it might work for some people. It'd be like, holy fuck, like they really got one over on these Hantai fools. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then on the same level, like if they are going full stop with God, which is what I think they're doing, I mean, this is kind of what you need to do to kind of rectify this many years of malfeasance from God, just being like these evildoers, and now suddenly like the guy, the ace Tanahashi, he's like bringing him home. I mean, that's it. That's the stamp of approval, and now we're off to the races with them as good guys. So.
Yeah, and also too, the rivalry with Taguchi and Prince Devitt as well. With Devitt turning on Taguchi, and now Tama Tonga also teaming with Taguchi, throwing that.
I haven't even thought about that much, but you know what? That's true too, because that was like the main dominating storyline of Prince Devitt's 1.5 year run as the leader of Bullet Club. It really came down to that Apollo Go-Go shit with him and Taguchi.
Right. So yeah, overall, forgiveness on both sides there, Taguchi and Tanahashi, and just leading to this, acceptance and pushing.
A lot of symbolism there, huh?
Yeah, long-term storytelling.
Yeah. I don't think they planned this one out, but it's working. We're figuring it out,
Right. We did have some questions here about some of the guys in this match. So first from Viking Pain says, if you ever listen to Tama talk about Tanahashi on his podcast, you can tell he has a lot of respect for the ace, but it still doesn't make seeing God tag with him less weird. Where do you think this BC storyline is heading? Is Tama about to get the biggest singles push of his career in a blood feud with Jay White, or are we about to get Bullet Club Wolfpack out of this?
So me personally, I think long term we're still heading towards a evil Jay White split of some sorts. How that plays out, I don't know, but I think that that the writing's on the wall. As far as Tama Tonga goes, this is the hottest he's ever felt in the whole time he's been in the company for me. So, yeah, I mean, whether it's a singles push, whether it's a push for God as a tag unit, or some combination of the two, yeah, this is a push. Much deserved one at this point too, which is great. And yeah, it is a little weird seeing them tag together, but we kind of cover that, kind of giving you the breakdown there and kind of explaining why it's taking place this way. And I think as time goes on, it's not going to feel so weird. But I don't think that God is trying to still wave the BC banner. I don't think we're getting BC Firing Squad or BC Tongans or BC OG. None of that. Like, I think that they're just either going to be their own subunit, which is Gorillas of Destiny, or they're going to just go completely amalgamated into Hantai. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you on the Bull Club direction. I do think eventually there is going to come a split with Jay White and Evil, and this was posted on New Japan's Twitter, so it's not a spoiler. They released the post-match promo from the Strong Style Evolve tour in Tampa that we were at last week, and Jay did say in his promo that there are still potential changes to Bull Club, and there's still some people he might be considering kicking out. So I do think at some point it is going to come to a head when he eventually gets back to Japan. And we might see House of Torture finally kind of break off from Bullet Club. And then agree with you with Tama. I agree with you. I think this is the hottest he's been. We've seen Tama pushes in the past that have not worked out. A lot of times we say on the show, like, man, why aren't they pushing Tama? They start pushing him and it doesn't quite work out. And now it's like, all right, they're pushing him. He's a face, and it's working. He's hot. The crowd is invested. That G1 last year, that Bayface run in the G1 was great. That match with Okada, beating Okada in the G1 crowd was a big pop when he pulled that upset win. So this is working. The crowds are getting behind him. I think it's a very intriguing storyline. Like you, I don't think we're going to get this Bullet Club, Red and Black, Bullet Club 2000, Bullet Club Silver, whatever. Like, I don't think we're going to get any of that kind of thing. I think it's just going to be God joining Hantai or, being their own subunit.
Yeah, I agree.
Barry Walsh says, hope all is good with both of you and the cake tasting as it sounds good. Did you see Tangaloa in the backstage comments on night 12 or 13 when Tanahashi came to the aid of God? It was almost implying he's not on board with the Hantai Alliance. I can see Jado and Tanga going back to Bullet Club with maybe Hikuleo and Tanga being like a God 2.0 and Tama being solo. Do you think it's possible, and do you think long-term this would be a benefit to each of them?
That's an interesting idea. I didn't watch those backstage comments, so I can't speak on that myself. But there would be some logic to it because, of all the guys right now, in my opinion, Tama Tonga seems to be the one that's most equipped and ready to kind of break out as a singles guy. Not to say that Tangaloa or Hikuleo couldn't do those things themselves, but I feel like they still need a little bit more like seasoning. And, Hikuleo's sort of out there in the weeds right now. He's kind of one of those odd men out in this situation. And everyone's sort of wondering where he's going to wind up. Like you mentioned, Jeremy, they did do a post-match angle with him and Jay White. During that angle, he was very clear that he is still Bullet Club, but he's not with Jay White. You know what I mean? And which is very confusing. Right. So I think that could be part of why people are wondering about this whole thing. There could be an argument that it might benefit Tangaloa and Hikuleo to become a new version of God and to continue on. Whether that's as good guys or bad guys, I don't know. And then kind of free up Tama Tonga to sort of pursue his own, singles career. The only thing is, I don't see why you couldn't do that with all three of them and maybe even other individuals in a faction together or as a unit. You know what I mean? And I feel like that's probably the best way to go long-term for all of them is to combine them, let Tama Tonga be the leader of the group, unless there's some more, qualified individual that they want to match up with those guys. Me personally, I don't think they should be Hantai, and I don't think they should be Bullet Club. I think we should see the formation of a new unit and kind of bring some new life, new blood to the company, which is something people are always, asking for.
Yeah. I think that they could do kind of like what they do with Dangerous Techers, where there are certain seasons of the year where they're focused on tag team, also like World Tag League and stuff, or, some tag talent matches. You can kind of place them in tag situations, but then also come, New Japan Cup, come G1, come some of the bigger shows, you can split Tama Tonga off and highlight him in singles matches. And also you need to do multi-man stuff, so you can still have, Tanga Loa and Hikuleo kind of be the guys he teams with in road to multi-mans and that are building towards his singles match. So I don't think you necessarily need to split them apart to push Tama as a single. I think, agreeing with you, you can push Tama and keep those guys together.
Yeah, I agree. I also think I think it's kind of cool that we have some room to speculate, because a lot lately with New Japan there hasn't been a lot of room for this kind of speculation. And if you were doing it, you were doing it very wildly because the company wasn't showing their hand on it, pretty much anything. And now there's a little bit of room to be like, well, they're doing something. What is it exactly? We don't know. Maybe that's the best thing, but they have a lot of room to grow into this angle, whatever it's going to be. And, it's one of the, I know it's a kind of a tired trope, but, we always say, let it play out. This is one where I'm kind of excited to see how it plays out. Hopefully it plays out to the benefit of all the guys involved, because I'd hate for it to be something where it's like, Tama Tonga is hot right now, and then by G1 season, he's eating all the pinfalls, and then he's just a mid-carder, and, it doesn't really,
Right.
It's just one of those early part of the year stories that doesn't lead anywhere, which could happen too.
Yeah. Let's move on to the next matchup here. We had the Chaos team of Tomohiro Ishii and Toru Yano teaming up with Togi Makabe. They defeated Suzuki Gun team of Minoru Suzuki, Taichi, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru 9 minutes and 13 seconds. Seems like we're getting the start of some kind of Ishii-Suzuki rivalry or a matchup coming up. I mean, I know normally those guys do have beef, but it seemed to be kind of escalated on these 2 nights of the tour here. So there was a big, pull-apart brawl of Ishii and Suzuki at the beginning of this match, kind of going back and forth. They're also setting up the Yano and Taichi KOPW matchup with this matchup here as well.
Yeah, so this was something where they, like you said, they've had a lot of run-ins with one another in the past. And, I've seen so many times where post-match, they're going at one another, they brawl to the back, and they're not involved in any kind of major feud. It's just something that's happening. So that's kind of what I thought we were seeing through most of the tour. It's like, these guys don't have much going on. They're just going to fight with one another. It's just kind of like a mini feud in the midst of their little series on this tour, and eventually it's going to end when they move on to whatever it is that they got going on next. But they made it very clear on both of these nights to amp that up, amp the energy up, and really put a lot of focus on it. I think because they're both going to America, we're probably going to see some sort of Suzuki Ishii match in the near future in the States, whether that's another New Japan show down the line, or something Mania weekend, something in AEW Impact. I don't know, but I think it's pretty clear that that's what they're building it to, is something in America. It might be on one of the next Strong tapings that they haven't announced matches for yet. I don't know.
Right, yeah. I mean, Windy City Riot's right around the corner. So yeah,
could be that.
Yeah. So also they want to put some big matches. I mean, the show's already sold out, but it seems like they're trying to stack that card a little bit. You got Mox and Ospreay in the main event. So I could see them doing a Suzuki Ishii match up, first time in the U.S. kind of thing as an additional kind of specialty for that show. So yeah. So moving on to the next matchup, we had the Strong Hearts, Shima, El Lindemann, and T-Hawk. They defeated the team of Hiroki Goto, Tiger Mask, and Tomioka Hanma, 9 minutes and 26 seconds. Not so much of a story here. I think the main thing is playing off of Shima defeating Goto in the New Japan Cup, and then obviously commentary, Charlton and Kelly just kind of speculating on whether or not we're going to see Strong Hearts moving forward.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. And I think that some of that speculation continues on the remainder of these nights on the show or on the tour. But yeah, I mean, they've got some options with the Strong Hearts, and I hope they keep incorporating them. But we don't know yet. It seems like they're teasing it at the very least.
Yeah. Then following that, we had the United Empire team of Great Okan and Jeff Cobb. They defeated the Chaos team of Yo and Yoshihashi. So kind of like we speculated last week, we're geared up for United Empire finally challenging for the tag team titles. It's been a long time coming. Obviously they pin Yo here in the match and kind of stake their claim. Jack and Yoshihashi after the match, staking their claim for a future tag team title shot.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. They haven't necessarily built to this match in the sense of where, these guys have been champions and these guys have been going after the titles. It's not like that. But for those that have been paying attention over the past year, one of the most successful and winningest teams in all of New Japan is the various different combinations of the United Empire. They have never even sniffed title contention at all during that whole period, regardless of the fact that they've been extremely dominant. Now the time is coming where the chickens are coming home to roost, and Bishamon are the champions, and they've got probably their most credible challengers in quite a while, at least since the Dangerous Techers that they took the titles off. So, I'm interested in this because we've seen how they pushed. Which team are we getting? It's going to be Cobb and Okan?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's the stronger combination of the United Empire guys. So, we've seen how they pushed Cobb this past year. We've seen how they've elevated Okan to a lesser degree. And, those guys are kind of streaking right now. So this is a huge challenge for Bishamon's, title reign.
Yeah. So looking forward to that rivalry coming up in the next couple of weeks. Then we also had some more United Empire action here. This time, Hanare and Ospreay teaming up. They defeated the LIJ team of Bushi and Hiromu Takahashi. Before the match, Ospreay grabbed the mic, said this match was not happening. He is still upset about the Zack Sabre match of him not tapping out, and he was not leaving the ring until Sabre came out, and they can run it back. But then Hiromu hit a big drop kick, and the match went on. But towards the end, we had the United Empire team picking up the win. Hanare hitting the Streets of Rage on Bushi.
Yeah. And I feel like we skipped over House of Torture against Suzuki-gun earlier on the card.
Oh, yeah, I totally did skip that. Yeah, we had third matchup. We had Evil, Sho, and Yujiro. They defeated the team of Doki, Desperado, and Taka Michinoku. Also, that match furthering Sho wanting to challenge Desperado.
Yeah, I only thought of that because of the post-match angle of this match with Hiromu and Evil kind of continuing their feud for the Never title, which has kind of been an ongoing thing since their last match in the New Japan Cup.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely we're getting geared towards the Evil versus Hiromu for the Never title and seeing that kind of continue on, and then
because this was the night where they came out and jumped Hiromu after the match, right?
Yeah, after the match at Evil, because Hiromu, they were kind of walking toward out of the losers gate section, and Evil jumped him there, and Dick Togo choked him out, and they walked to the back.
Yeah.
So then that led into the semi-main event, the first semi-final match of the evening. Zack Sabre Jr. defeating the Dragon, Shingo Takagi, by referee's decision, 19 minutes and 24 seconds.
Yeah, I think in recent times, this might be my favorite series of matches in New Japan, at least since the Will Ospreay Shingo series.
Yeah.
3 matches in a pretty short time period, since their first match with one another recently in the G1, and then the title match they had after that. Now this match here in the New Japan Cup semifinals, and all 3 of those matches have been outstanding. We kind of knew that this match had a high ceiling based on those previous 2 matches, and it delivered. I think that this was, if not on the same level, maybe a smidge beneath the Zack and Ospreay match that we had earlier, but it might be on the same equal footing, which is kind of crazy considering how much praise that match had. And the whole time I was watching this, the one thing that that I just noticed was how Zack just kept getting towards the tail end. Zack just kept getting Shingo into compromising position, near fall, near submission, And oftentimes in your mind, when you see that happening, you for longtime viewers, especially me, my wrestling mind kicks in and says, this guy's getting too close too many times. When you do that, it's usually the tell that the other guy is going to pick up the victory. And I was like, fuck, it looks like Shingo's about to win this match because Zach is pushing him to the brink too often. And like, he's going to slip up or mess up and Shingo's going to latch the dragon him and that's going to be it. Except it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Every single time Shingo got really close to finishing him, like Zach had an answer for it. And then this crazy close where they come off the top rope and they were wrestling into this rear naked choke spot and like it just kept looking like Shingo's gonna get out, and like you think he's reversing it, you think he's escaping, and Zach just keeps having an answer, and then finally like he just fucking chokes the guy unconscious. And I was at the gym watching this because I was doing a light cardio day, so I'm like on the fucking treadmill, and I was like, fuck yeah. Dude, it was so exciting. Like, this match ruled. It might be like the second or third best match of the whole tournament, honestly.
Yeah, I love this matchup. I think, like you mentioned, Shingo and Sabre have incredible chemistry. And again, it's kind of one of those mixed match of styles that sometimes you might think might not work with, Sabre obviously being the super technical submission ground wrestler and Shingo kind of being the more never style, strong style, I'm going to hit you hard, lots of lariats, big suplexes but they flow together so perfectly and have such great chemistry. And I think this match really played up off of the G1 match and the power struggle match and also just playing into Shingo's story in the tournament. So, previously before facing Sabre, Shingo had a, 18-minute war with Chase Owens, and the night before the Chase match, Chase hit the package pile driver on chairs on the Shingo. The Shingo came into it with a hurt neck in the Chase match, and then the whole Chase match, Chase worked Shingo's neck and was looking for the package pile driver. Didn't get it, but still had a lot of damage on Shingo's neck. So Sabre, obviously being the technical, wizard that he is, he focused a lot on Shingo's neck here in this match, which led to the finish, but also Sabre got the tap out in the G1 with the arm, so Sabre also worked Shingo's arm in this match as well. So a lot of callbacks to that as well. They did tease the same finish that they did in the G1. Shingo's able to escape though this time. There's so many great counters, and like you mentioned that closing sequence where Sabre, he reverses the Last of Dragon, gets a sleeper hold on. Like you, I'm like, all right, we've seen spots like this before where the guy goes up on top or it will back up into the corner to try and break the hole and usually gets out. And Shingo, the crowd was really into it. He goes to the top with Sabre on his back, does a big backdrop, but then Sabre immediately snatches the sleeper right back on Shingo and ends out, Shingo passes out.
Yeah. And we've seen Shingo passed out before. We've seen that with the first Okada match where he was choked unconscious by the money clip. So this isn't the first time where this has happened. And when you talked about the variety of styles, I mean, if you look at the fantastic Zack Sabre Jr. and Tomohiro Ishii series of matches, that's sort of like a prototype of what this match or what this series was kind of like. So you almost even had an archetype kind of set for them from the outset. But my favorite part of this match was the moment where Shingo's working his alternating elbows to the face, and he's doing da-da, and he's rocking Zach, and like it looks like Zach's about to go out, and then Zach just, I don't know, he fucking fires up, and he just slaps the shit out of Shingo, and then like hard, and I was like, oh shit, and then and he just starts smack. I was like, fuck yeah, let's turn up. And they just start going to war. And I was like, yes. This match, if you guys haven't seen it, this match is a must watch. One of the best matches in New Japan this year. There's definitely some justifiable criticisms of New Japan in 2022 and some justifiable criticisms of this tournament. But we still got like 6 or 7 of the best matches this year out of this tournament already, which I don't think we usually get that many good matches out of the New Japan Cup in general. So that's a positive at the very least. This is one of the very best ones.
Yeah, I went with the coward rating here. I went 4.75 on this matchup.
That's high, man.
I thought it was just incredible. The crowd, we're starting to see the crowd are slowly kind of breaking the rules and gasping and cheering a little bit, and they were so invested into this match. And when Sabre got that submission, the ref stoppage, like crowd gasp and big applause, really into this. And Sabre, he's using more Japanese language in his promos now, and really just kind of appealing to the Japanese audience. It just seemed like a really big moment for Sabre.
Nice. Well, then the next match of the night was the other New Japan Cup 2022 semifinal match. The main event, Tetsuya Naito, he defeated Kazuchika Okada 27 minutes and 42 seconds. And Jeremy, let me just start by saying, we talked about how great the match preceding this was. And we know what Naito and Okada are capable of. We saw it just even as recently as February. But, man, they had a tough time following that match before them.
They sure did. I was excited about this one. I was ready to go. And it took a while to get it going for me to really get into this matchup. I mean, Shingo and Sabre went balls to the wall, and it was just this, epic matchup. And, normally Okada doesn't really have issues, and Naito too, of following big matches. We've seen crazy Wrestle Kingdom lineups where Okada's main eventing or Naito's in a semi-main event. They kind of follow what's ever before them. But yeah, they had a really hard time, and I don't think they topped Shingo and Sabre here. Still a really good match. I would still say it's a notebook-worthy match, but compared to the title match we just saw in the Golden Series and compared to the rest of the body of the work of the rivalry, it wasn't near the top of what they normally do.
Yeah. 27 minutes for them was a bit long, although, I think typically in their series, most of the matches go around 30, so that might even be a little bit shorter than what they usually do. It was definitely longer than the February title defense, though. One of the big stories, though, going into this match was how Naito had been unable to utilize the Destino to put anybody away in this tournament, and he was kind of utilizing various different methods of defeat. In most cases, it was roll-ups. And we kind of saw that come into play here in this match. They kind of hit like a penultimate moment where, they were kind of hitting a critical mass, and it just kind of felt like the match was hitting a peak. And Naito goes for the roll up that he's been utilized, that roll through like bridge to try and get the victory. Comes very, very close. And then we saw Okada hit the cradle that he's used in the past. Jeremy, I know you like to call it the Omega cradle.
Yeah.
The one that he beat Omega with in the 2 out of 3 falls match. And that one, he's got a long history of defeats with that as well. I think recently he beat Jeff Cobb last year with it. And that came very, very close. And that's sort of when the match turned up for me at that point, because that's when we started seeing like all the the Glorias and all the different signature moves of Naito and Okada. And they just kind of at that point started breaking out all the hits. I just feel like it took a really long time to get to that point, and a lot of the body of work prior to that just kind of felt lackluster to me and sort of meandering. I'll kick it over to you, but my thought, and this might not be a perfect analogy, but this series at this point kind of reminds me of like Mizawa and Kawada, but like after 1999, where like their best matches and the like heights of their rivalry are behind them, and now anything that they do after this is going to pale in comparison to anything that they've already done prior to that. And they're older as well, and the pace is slower, and you know what I mean? That's kind of the generational rivalry vibe I'm sort of getting from this match at this point.
Yeah, and I think a lot of part of it too could be, it does seem, also with this Naito victory, that we're going to get a May Naito title match with Okada, so they're probably like, let's not throw out a whole bunch of stuff because we're going to need to save some stuff for May. So I feel like that could play a part of it as well. But yeah, I agree with you. I feel like a lot of the beginning part of the match was like, if you cut that out, like nothing's missing from the match. I mean, obviously there were some limb targeting, going after, Naito's knees, Okada's neck, kind of the same kind of basic stuff they do. But like you mentioned,
we've seen for like a decade.
Right. Nothing really picked up like until we got to that Omega Cradle. And then, we're seeing the Gloria Naito. He goes for the Stardust Press, and he hit it in the Golden Series match, but Okada moved this time. So then we started seeing, the big counters, and Okada's hitting the drop kick and the German, and Naito's doing all his stuff. And so that's when, we pick up again the counter, trying for the Destino, trying for the Rainmaker, trying for the landside driver, until
the finish is great.
Yeah.
The closing sequence of the match is really great. And I mean, I don't mean to, I still thought this match was about 4 stars. So it's a recommended match. It's just compared to like the match they had in February, some of their matches in their series, and the fact that this is a semifinal main event, I just kind of expected a little bit more. I didn't expect them to have a match of the year contender because I did think they're going to hold something back, like you mentioned. But, I felt like they maybe played it a little too safe this time.
Yeah. But Naito ends up busting out the Polvo de Estrella, one of his cradles that he's been doing, gets the cradle on Okada's, able to pin the World Heavyweight Champion and also get into the finals of the New Japan Cup.
Now, here's my take on some of this. I thought Okada being in the New Japan Cup was very interesting because the champion's usually never in it. And we saw him compete against mostly opponents that are not going to get title shots for the most part. Wato, Desperado, Taichi at this point. And even though those are not technically title defenses, I always kind of consider when a champion goes into like a big tournament like the G1, it sort of does count towards the overall body of his singles work as champion, because it's so rare that the champions even have singles matches in general. So I kind of think it counts. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And
I think that's sort of the story that they're going to be telling this year with Okada's new challenges, fresh matchups, different things than what we've done in the past for a new generation. And that's kind of started to play out a little bit in this tournament. But then that story needed to come to an end at this point. If you listened to the various weeks of this show, I mean, I've told everybody from the very, very offset of the reviews or the preview that it was going to come down to Naito and Okada, and Okada was going to lose to Naito to set up a May title defense. So, this was not a big secret. But the interesting thing is that they've had Naito doing all roll-up victories. And I think the reason for that is because, spoiler alert, Naito does not win this tournament, just like I've been telling everyone he's not going to. And I think in order for that to kind of make sense to keep Naito sort of strong, they needed him to basically be maybe wrestling down a little bit, maybe not utilizing the Destino, maybe he's doing roll-ups, kind of come from behind victories. I mean, I think it's interesting that we saw him wrestle Tanahashi and Okada in the same tournament, and Jeff Cobb, 3 guys that he's had a lot of experience with, great matches, and all 3 of those matches were less than what you'd expect. And I didn't think Naito looked like a guy that was hurt or slow or unable to wrestle. I think it has something to do with the fact that they knew from the very outset that he wasn't winning the tournament, and I think that they made him wrestle down a little bit, so as that when he took that loss, he wasn't like set up so high that it was a huge fall. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
I think they were setting the table the whole time for Naito and Okada to get to this point where both of them had good tournaments but not great tournaments, so that Okada could lose to a guy that wasn't streaking super white hot. That's believable. And then Naito's in a position where, like, when he's ready to take the loss in the final, he didn't look like the best version of himself the whole time anyways. So, in a certain sense, it kind of protects him too. And I think that's what they were purposefully doing the whole time. It's not my favorite logic. I remember when they did this with Okada in the G1 a few years ago when he was broken. It was broken. He didn't really, red balloon Okada.
Yeah.
I felt like this was kind of a mini version of that for Naito in this tournament. Because, think about it. Why didn't they have him using the Destino? Why didn't they have him going out there and having blow-away matches when I think he could if he had wanted to.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So yeah, so with those matches, we end up with a final of Zack Sabre Jr. versus Tetsuya Naito, which is what we predicted last week on the show. So we'll move now to the final night of the tournament, which happened on Sunday, March 27th. The show opened up with Bushi defeating Kosei Fujita, 7 minutes and 20 seconds. That's your standard young lion match for a veteran. Good wrestling here, but, really no story development coming out of this. Then the next matchup, we had the Bullet Club team of Bad Luck Fale, Chase Owens, El Phantasmo, Gato, and Taiji Ishimori, defeating God 6 or 9 and Jado 9 minutes and 53 seconds. Once again, Bullet Club kind of outsmarts Jado, and Chase Owens able to get the pin over Jado. Well, Chase sets for Gato to get the pin over Jado in the end.
Yeah, and they made mention that the previous night, even though it was a disqualification loss, the two legal men at the time of the victory were Tanahashi and Chase Owens. So the record books do, in fact, show that Chase Owens has another victory over Hiroshi Tanahashi.
Yes.
Just want to make mention of that.
Yeah, and then Chase was talking about his big figure contract that he's gotten, and so yeah,
sounds like MJF.
Yeah. So then the next matchup, we had Minoru Suzuki, Taichi, and Yoshinobu Kanemaru defeating the Chaos team of Tomohiro Ishii, Toru Yano, and Yo. Once again, setting up Taichi and Yano for KOPW, and Suzuki and Ishii once again brawling throughout this match. After the match, Suzuki and Ishii, they were battling all over the place. Young Lions are trying to pull these guys apart, and they were fighting on the stage and keep coming at each other. Like we mentioned, it seems like they're turning the heat up. Like a upcoming singles match is definitely on the horizon. Kevin Kelly mentioned, both of these guys could potentially be on the same plane going to the U.S. this weekend, or are they going to continue the brawl on the plane? So I do think Windy City Riot probably seems like a likely destination for these two guys to lock horns.
Yes, and also remember, out of all the men involved in the 6-man tag, Yo is still a hoe.
Oh, man. And then also with Taichi and Yano, we're seeing a lot of the sumo wrestling stuff, and we'll get to what the stipulations are for their matchup, but there's kind of this...
I was Googling recently. There's this guy from like somewhere in Eastern Europe. I don't want to say the wrong country, but they call him like the muscular sumo wrestler. And this is a gentleman who like went to Japan to compete in sumo and got really high up in the ranks, but was not fat. Like was just like, he looked like a kind of like Cesaro. Like if Cesaro decided to like take a guy that's just like fucking shredded and was like schooling other like, big sumo wrestlers. And like, I want to find out more about it, because apparently I was doing some research back in the old days of sumo wrestling, like the origins and the history of it. Sumo wrestlers were not always traditionally fat. They actually used to be like muscle men, like pro wrestlers, basically, like MMA fighters. And then over time, I think guys with more mass started to find that to be an advantage. That kind of became part of the culture. But like in ancient times, it wasn't like that. And there are still some people that are practitioners that don't put on the mass. I don't know. I don't know that much about sumo, but I think it is interesting that, we're going to see Toru Yano and Taichi do a sumo match. They've had some interesting stuff, kind of implementing some of Taichi's like sumo background. He's kind of got this new sumo elbow thrust that he's been utilizing, which I think is pretty cool. It's almost like a new finisher. Mm-hmm. And then the one thing, he's got sort of like a sumo throw. Yeah, but it's almost like a standing whizzer.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
But I don't like the way they're pulling it off. It always kind of looks, I like the idea of what it should be, but it always looks like the guys are kind of just stumbling and kind of like sloppy. And I feel like there should be a smoother, I feel like they should call Ronda Rousey for, she works those judo moves in pretty well. And like, I feel like if someone knows how to turn that into a work move, maybe like her or someone else in the dojo. I don't know. Someone needs to kind of help him because it always comes off a little loosey-goosey for my taste.
Yeah, it's almost like they're not expecting it. Like Tai Chi calls it and they're like, what? And he just like tries to throw them. But yeah, and it's not a guarantee that we're seeing these guys in a sumo match. We'll talk about Yano's stipulation here in a second.
I think it's already settled.
Okay, I know. I saw the voting was still open today, but yeah, maybe.
Oh, it's still open. Okay, but yeah. I mean, like it was like there's no way that other. We'll talk about it, but there's no way that other match is winning. It was like 78 to like 12 or something like that.
Yeah. So moving on to the next match, we had the House of Torture Show and Yujiro Takahashi that defeated Suzuki Gun's El Desperado and Taka Michinoku in 37 seconds. So before the match could start, Show he storms to the back, saying he's not going to wrestle. He wants his title shot. He's complaining. So he goes to the back, and then Despy and Taka come out, and Show attacks Despy on the way to the ring. And Taka with the wrench, they throw Taka back into the ring, and Yujiro hits the big juice on Taka. 1, 2, 3, quick win here, and Show after the match grabs a belt, looking for also he's making a challenge here for the junior title.
Well, I mean, we've kind of known that for a while. I personally, I don't have any real investment in Desperado and Show at this point, not just because of House of Torture Show, but also because this the build has just been Desperado just getting his ass handed to him by Desperado in various different ways, whether it's him hitting him with the belt or the Chroma bar or jumping him. Like Desperado kind of looks weak in this whole thing, and I'm sure it's because he's probably retaining a good show, although that's not a promise.
Right.
But, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel any heat for this personally.
Yeah, I'm not really digging this build so far, and it's probably just because I'm kind of over Show, and everyone done much here. I mean, here in this angle, Show, he did remove Desperado's mask, hit him with a shock arrow, so that was probably the best part of this build so far. But I'm not really digging it. I mean, the crowd did seem to kind of be into, booing Show as he was leaving before the match started. So it seems like maybe the Japanese audience might be a little bit more into it than we are, but I'm not really feeling it right now.
Yeah.
We have a question here from our user PSAN91. He says, what do you think about people in Osaka actually breaking the rules to shout at Show during the angle of Despy? I also noticed watching it how loud the crowd was during the big matches, so it felt like a proper NJPW show.
I personally must not have been paying that close of attention. I didn't notice the crowd getting vocal in that regard, but I mean, I don't know at this point. I mean, who am I to say what they should or shouldn't be doing?
Yeah, I think we're getting to the point they're increasing the limitations of people who can be in the buildings. They've been following the rules this whole time, but sometimes when you're in a show, you just get so excited, you get into it, and I think people are getting lost in the show, which is a good thing. They're getting caught up on what's happening, and they're just kind of going with their gut and yelling at Show as he walks by and gasping in these big matches. So these guys, these fans they're ready to kind of get back to usual. Which is a follow-up question. He says, how long do you think it will be before they remove the rules about no cheering / shouting?
I really don't know. It feels like the world is moving on from COVID, even though it's not gone away. Or at least here in the States, like it's just kind of become a non-story as other things like the ongoings in Russia and various different political stories. Chris Rock and Will Smith are kind of dominating the headlines. I mean, I don't know. So I can't say what it's like over there. I don't really know. I do know that there was a recent increase in Europe, and they were saying that might follow suit in Asia and in the West. But I do look at the numbers, and like the death rates are not they don't seem to correlate with the recent spikes the way that they did in the early days of the pandemic. So whether that's less deadly strains, or whether people are taking more precautions, or, whether that's, boosted protection from the vaccines or various treatments. I don't know, but hopefully we're getting to a point in life where it's just not as big of a threat as it was in the past, and society can kind of move on and we can resume life in a safe way. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned here in the U.S., yeah, it doesn't even seem, especially in Florida. I mean, for a while now, it seems like, yeah, COVID doesn't exist. We're back to full capacity, everything. Last week I took my fiance to see a musical at Ruth Eckerd Hall, jam-packed, nobody wearing masks. It's like, yeah, everything is kind of just back to normal here. So hopefully, pretty soon, it would be great for like Best of Super Juniors if restrictions could be lifted. But I know Japan is playing it safe, but yeah, hopefully that restriction will be lifted soon.
Yeah, the big question is, will there even be as much of a intrigue at this point for the product as there was, or even just a maybe not the same level, but will there be similar levels of interest and attendance as there was pre-pandemic? I mean, just looking at this past weekend, this was a well-attended show, but they got outdrawn, not by much, but they got outdrawn by Stardom on the same day and then the same weekend.
Right.
So,
yeah, Dr. Joshi, James Boyd always make sure to let us know when Stardom outdraws New Japan. But yeah, Stardom's on fire right now. They're drawing some big houses. They're growing. They're doing a lot of great stuff there. But not too bad of a house for New Japan as well. Not too far away from that Stardom number. I do think once we get some, more limitations lifted, and especially as big stars start coming over and we're seeing more intriguing matchups happening, I think attendance will continue to go back up. So moving on to the next matchup here, we had the United Empires, Aaron Henare, Great Okan, Jeff Cobb, and Will Ospreay defeating Makabe Hanma and Goto and Yoshihashi at 10 minutes and 26 seconds. Cobb getting the win with the Tour of the Islands. After the match, United Empire, they beat down this team of Bishamon and Great Bash Heel, and Cobb and Okan stand tall with the IWGP tag titles. So just continuing that tag team title build there.
Yeah, I don't have much more to add. I kind of gave my 2 cents on the current state of the feud, but every show they're just making it very apparent that that's where we're headed.
Yeah. So we move on to the sixth match. We had LIJ's Hiromu and Shingo defeating the House of Torture's Dick Togo and Evil at 7 minutes and 45 seconds. At the beginning of the match, Hiromu launched an attack on Evil on the ramp, and those guys are kind of brawling around towards the beginning of the matchup there, and then continuing with the match, and then leading to Hiromu hitting Dick Togo with the Everything is Evil and pinning Dick Togo with Evil's finisher to win the match. We saw Hiromu pin Evil with his own finisher in this tournament. So continuing this build for the Never title, Evil tried to jump Hiromu after the match, but then he, Hiromu was fighting back, and Evil ran for, safer grounds. And then Hiromu grabbed the Never title, grabbed the mic, and, he said that he's not challenging Evil. He wants Evil to challenge him.
I didn't pick up on that last bit that he wants Evil to challenge him. But, yeah, I mean, I love the idea that he continues to antagonize Evil by using the Everything is Evil. I don't know if they've given a storyline explanation maybe in the post-match or anything about why he's so effective at using that, but I have to assume it has something to do with their previous partnership and coming up through the dojo system together, just kind of circling around their relationship with one another, and that kind of being like one of the big focal points of this feud and of the story right here.
Yeah. And we had a question from Reddit user Grunty Dodds. He said, what are 5 things you've liked about Evil over the past 2 years? This can literally be anything: matches, promos, angles, etc.
He has good entrance music.
Yeah.
not now, but in his early days when he first turned, he had a great haircut, like with the frosted and the purple. I liked that. Um,
I like the Hiromu Evil world title match. I like the.
yeah, but do you like that because of Evil or just?
I don't know. It was his best defense. I liked him in this New Japan Cup with Hiromu, that match. I still think it's funny when he says everything is evil in the Rock kind of promo voice.
I can only tell you that there are two things that I've liked about him in the last 5 years. He had good hair when he first came back as this new character, and he had good music. You know what? I'll give him a third thing. After he ditched the skirt, this version of his gear, I do think is better than the LIJ gear that he had previously. The new singlet with the leather and all that.
Yeah.
That's three things. They're all appearance-based. Hair, music, and gear. Those are the only things that I've liked about the dude.
Yeah.
And I like when he loses.
Yes.
But I don't like to watch him wrestle even when he loses, but I like the outcome when he does lose.
Yes. I like when he is not involved in the world title picture.
I also like, I like when he's not involved in the title picture. So that's 5 things. There you go.
So moving on to the semi-main event, we had a special 8-man tag here. We had Hiroshi Tanahashi, Kazuchika Okada, Satoshi Kojima, and Tiger Mask defeating the team of Strongheart, Shima, El Lindemann, and T-Hawk, and they teamed up with Tatsumi Fujinami.
Yeah, I'll just say this right now. I like this match a lot. I thought it was really, really cool, really fun, really interesting. Just the idea of pitting all these different New Japan loyalists and very like foundational key figures, Okada and Kojima, Tiger Mask. I like Tiger Mask, the fact that he and Tanahashi was in this match too, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, you've kind of got like your core guys there, and then I love that Tiger Mask sort of paid homage to Satoru Sayama's Tiger Mask with the look of his gear. And then, you kind of compare that on the opposite side. You've got 3 guys from, Glade, Strong Hearts, so outsiders teaming with another quote unquote outsider in Fujinami. But, Fujinami is like the second ace of the company. He was in the first match in the history of New Japan ever, like in the opener of the original show, multi-time world champion with the company. Like, he's a key foundational like pillar of the company. And, now he kind of works for tradition, but like seeing all these different mixed parts of these non-traditional New Japan outsiders, mixing it up with the foundational guys, and how the crowd kind of popped for all these different like, groupings. And then one thing too, is like, I really love the way that the Strong Hearts have just kind of brought many of their Dragon Gate-esque multi-man match kind of stylings into their approach with these matches. And I'll tell you right now, I think that this is one of the first early candidates for tag team match of the year in New Japan. I went 4 stars on this. That's how high I was. And I thought it was very, very fun, very exciting, very intriguing. I loved the stuff with T-Hawk and Okada specifically. There's a lot to like here. And for a tag team, for an 8-man tag, multi-man, semi-main event on a final show like this, I thought this match ruled.
Yeah, this was a really, really fun match. I enjoyed it a lot as well. Really entertaining. Like you mentioned, the stuff with Okada and T-Hawk was really great, especially the closing sequence. They were the last 2 guys in the ring for the closing of the match, and T-Hawk was just hitting some incredible sequences on Okada. There was one really, really close near fall where Okada literally kicked out at 2.99, and the crowd let out a big gasp and thought that T-Hawk was going to pull the upset. And it seemed like the crowd kind of wanted T-Hawk to pull the upset for something different and intriguing to happen. And it seemed like Okada was really on the ropes. And then, Tanahashi came in and kind of helped Okada out, make a save. And then Okada was able to kind of rebound, hit the landslide and the Rainmaker on T-Hawk. But that little segment there was really great and kind of surprising to see how much Okada gave T-Hawk in all those, great near falls he was getting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, I'm not going to sit here and claim that I'm watching everything that happens in the pro world, but anyone that kind of knows what the deal is with T-Hawk, I mean, he has been outstanding over the past few years. And in many ways, I would say is the real standout individual of Strong Hearts, even though, from a looks perspective, he might not have the, prestige and acclaim of Shima, and he might not have like, that the star making kind of like quality of like El Lindemann. You look at Lindemann, you just think like, man, big strong boy, like this guy's got a look. He can really go, and he can do awesome stuff too. But like, for my money, I think T-Hawk's like the man in the group, and he's kind of proven that in every company that they've been in over the past couple of years. And in this match, he really got his first true opportunity to shine in a New Japan ring. He did not disappoint. Now, I won't sit here and say that I think they're going down the line with an Okada T-Hawk match, but they gave you a little breadcrumb to where if they ever did decide to do that, maybe now, maybe years from now, I don't know, it's there. Kind of similar to what they set the table for with Kiyomiya and Okada during the Noah show back in January. So like I bid on it first. I was like, holy fuck! Like he almost pinned Okada. If he pinned Okada, I'd be like, damn! Like we got another title shot like coming up. This is awesome. But alas, that didn't happen. But still, this match was really cool, and I like that moment a lot.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what T-Hawk's weight classification is, but I mean he's a guy you could throw in the G1.
I think he's heavyweight.
And you can run back T-Hawk and Okada in the G1, and maybe you do have T-Hawk beat Okada, and he gets a post G1 title shot on the road to Wrestle Kingdom. So there's a lot of intriguing stuff they could do based off this segment with T-Hawk and Okada. We had a question here from Les Commission 7252. Would you say that T-Hawk made Master Wato look like a young lion again, the way he outperformed Wato when stepping in the ring with Okada in this tag match?
I don't know if I would go that far and say he made him look like a young lion, but like there's no denying in my mind that T-Hawk is light years beyond Master Wato. I think Wato has upside, of course, and I've said that on the podcast before, and I think he's improving, but like, do I think he, there's levels to this game, and I mean, already I think T-Hawk is far, far beyond him. I don't think that's a surprise to anybody that's kind of in the know. I mean, like you look at the work that he did in Dragon Gate, and then after that, in DDT, and then in All Japan and Wrestle One. I think he was the Wrestle One champion for like a 9-month stretch and had incredible title defenses. So, I mean, he's kind of way beyond Wato just in terms of experience and everything like that.
Yeah, I think it's really hard to compare those two guys. They're on, like you mentioned, different levels, different playing fields, and we mentioned, Wato against Okada would have been a good opportunity for Wato to kind of show what he got. And, he did show what he got, and he just wasn't on that level. And T-Hawk showed what he got here, and he is on that level to have a great match with Okada.
Yeah, when T-Hawk, when Wato was like still on excursion in Mexico, like T-Hawk was already like main eventing major shows in Japan at that point. So,
yeah,
they're not like the same class.
Yeah. Viking Pain asks, do you think we'll be seeing more from Strong Hearts in the future? All three guys could add some much-needed life into this year's Best of the Super Juniors.
Well, depending on if they go back to the 2-block tournament model, which I think they should, and everything like that, I think we can maybe see Lindemann. And to be honest, I think El Lindemann is the only guy they're going to classify as a junior. They've been very careful not to call Shima a junior in any respect or any regard at all. And I think that there's probably some sort of order from on top not to do that. And when you look at T-Hawk's frame and you compare it to Shima's, he's even bigger. And they kind of mentioned on commentary that he's probably heavyweight. So I don't think we'll be seeing them in the Super Juniors, but I think we could easily be seeing El Lindemann, and that's the guy that Desperado has said he wanted to wrestle many times over the past year anyways. So I hope that happens. But I mean, I looked at Cage Match this past weekend, doing some excursion match of the year like research, and I mean, as unbelievable as it sounds, Shima's already had 9 matches in New Japan this year, and they're probably going to be having more in the future, which puts us kind of this podcast in the conundrum because we don't know how to classify a guy like Shima when we do excursion match of the year. Because like last year, the rule was like 5 appearances and you kind of qualified, but like they don't even though they're showing up, they still feel like outright and out outsiders. But he's already like way past our 5 appearance rule for last year, so I guess we'll have to kind of rethink some things. But yes, I hopefully will continue to see them as the year goes on.
Yeah, there was reports earlier when they first started showing up that Liger was a big fan and really wanted Lindemann in Super Juniors, and there are some reports coming out from this weekend's show that a lot of the key people in the office of New Japan were very impressed with Strong Hearts. So it does sound like we're going to see more Strong Hearts, and it could be a similar situation that we've seen in the past when outsiders come in, like Kota Ibushi and Ricochet, and guys are coming in from Dragon Gate and DDT, and then they kind of slowly just, get snagged up by New Japan and become full-time New Japan guys. And so we could be seeing this GLEAT trio. I mean, they could just leave GLEAT and end up just being full-time New Japan.
Possibly. Yeah. At the same time, I don't understand the full relationship, but I think that Shima has some sort of ownership stake in that company, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe, but if Obari backs up those Obari bucks, man might leave. might pull a Cody.
I guess, yeah. But I mean, at the very least, for now, the companies are kind of have some sort of exchange, even if it's just for these guys. I don't know, but yeah, it's interesting.
Then Reddit user Ghost of Doc Gonzo. Any chance we could see the Strong Hearts take the Never 6-Man titles off of House of Torture? I personally would love to see it, and they could have a lot of awesome matches defending the belts, more than House of Torture could for damn sure.
I'm all for that. I mean, I loved last year and the year prior to that when the Chaos Trio had possession of those belts and really made it matter. And I feel like long term, you're going to need to find something for Strong Hearts to do if they're going to continue in the company. And that kind of gets dicey, but that would be a nice landing spot for all 3 of those guys. Keep them together as a unit, put them in meaningful matches for a title that maybe isn't the most important, but they could add some prestige to it. They could probably draw some nice Cork and Hall crowds. And, I'm sure because it's the Strong Hearts, they wouldn't be getting those low slots during major cards the same way that the Chaos Trio was. They're one of the few groups that I think could actually elevate in a certain respect the prestige of the titles even more than the Chaos Trio did, just based on Shima's name alone,
Yeah, and that would be pretty cool to have those guys with the Never 6 titles, and and seeing them featured on some of the bigger shows and some defenses. It'd be a fresh unit. They're great in 6-man tags. I think it would bring a lot of life into that division right now.
The other thing too I thought about is, once they're able to do it, we've never really seen all 3 sons of Haku team together, and that's another potential trio down the line that could maybe hold those titles and maybe add some meaning to the belts,
Yeah, that'd be cool. So now let's move on to the main event, the New Japan Cup 2022 final match. Zack Sabre Jr. He defeats Tetsuya Naito 24 minutes and 43 seconds. Zachy 2 Cup. Zach, once again, a New Japan Cup winner. Young boy, what did you think about this main event final tournament matchup here?
I liked it a lot. Naito and Zack Sabre Jr., they have a lot of history with one another, and a lot of that history kind of starts at the first New Japan Cup that they competed against one another when this podcast was in its early days in infancy. And, when Zach beat Naito in the early rounds of that tournament, it was really shocking. because like he flat out tapped the man, and he got a ref stoppage on him possibly. I can't remember.
Yeah, he had him in the orienteering with Napalm Death, that kind of banana split like maneuver, and Naito, there was nowhere for Naito to go. The ref had to call it.
Yeah. So, and then ever since then, the momentum has kind of shifted over the years. There have been times where they've had numerous mini trilogies over different year periods, but like there's been times where Zach has seemed to have Naito's number, and then Naito's kind of regained it. And, again, that's sort of playing out here. I mean, I heard a clip with Chris Samsa just recently. I think he was on the Fight Game podcast, and you saw because they actually taped their podcast, like you saw where like the light bulb clicked for him. So this is after he was on our show and did the preview, because I don't think he was saying these things during the preview, but we were a little deeper into the tournament at this point, and Chris was like, you know what, it's gonna end up being Naito and Zach in the finals. Like something just clicked, and then he was like, yeah, it just makes sense. He was like, think about it. He was like, Naito, the last guy that he lost to in the G1 was Zach, and that's when he got injured. He was unable to compete for the rest of the tournament. Now we get here, the end of this tournament. It just makes sense from a storyline standpoint that it would come down to the two of them, because everyone kind of thought it was going to be Naito on the left side of the bracket anyways. It was kind of figuring out who was going to be on the right side to oppose him. That was the difficult task. And he kind of figured this out a few weeks ago. And I think we were a little bit later in the game on that standpoint, but at least for the last couple episodes, we've been saying the same thing too. And it made sense from a storyline perspective. And I really love the way they laid out this match.
We had the return of VTRs before the match. They did a great job highlighting that. Naito had won all his tournament matchups with roll-ups, no destino. Sabre had won all his tournament matchups with submissions, different submissions. So both of these guys kind of coming in with their whole stories of the tournament. Great job building the matchup with the BTR. And then there's an incredible story. And like you mentioned, there's so much history to play up on in this matchup. It was awesome. And going back to, like you mentioned, that first New Japan Cup victory that Sabre had over Naito in 2018, they did a recall of that spot. Sabre got Naito the orienteering of Napalm Death, but Naito was able to get to the ropes this time. So just so many great callbacks like that made this match really, really great.
Yeah, I agree. Another thing, too, that was kind of a story point was the way that Zach had gone through so many wars in this tournament that his body was kind of breaking down, and there's this gigantic bruise on his inner thigh, and they kind of showcase that. And then they said that he was having trouble with his ribs, and he sold the ribs the entire match. Now, whether that's a shoot or work, I don't really know. These guys do have very grueling, schedules, especially when it comes to this tournament. So who knows? Maybe there's a little bit of life imitating art, or vice versa. But he really sold the pain that he was going through with his ribs all throughout the match. And that was kind of like a thing, was like him having to fight through these accumulating injuries to still put himself in a position to potentially try and tap out Naito. And Naito, going, actually, I'm trying to think of it. Like, what was the story with Naito on his side of things?
I think for Naito here, I think once again he was looking for a lot of those cradles, trying to avoid. Sabre had targeted in on the leg, and trying to avoid getting caught in a submission, while at the same time trying to pull one of these wacky roll-ups on, but he just couldn't seem to out wrestle Zach to be able to get him stuck in one of those holes.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, is that what his game plan was? Was he trying to out wrestle him and just use like a classic catch pitting combination to win the whole time? Sort of what it felt like to a certain degree, I suppose.
Yeah, and then there was that one sequence toward the end where they were busting out all the near falls. Like Naito was doing a bunch of cradles, like he did that one like bounce off the rope jackknife cover that he pinned Tanahashi with, and he was doing all the roll-ups that he used in the tournament. And Sabre was kicking out. Sabre was using the European clutch and crucifix. Sabre was doing a lot of near fall quick pins as well. There was a great sequence where Naito versus a Zack driver. into the Valentina. And Sabre eventually did get the Zach driver for a near fall. That was great.
Is it the Valentina or the Valencia?
I think there's two. I think there's both.
See, it's always hard for me with Naito because he's got so many names to his. What's the Esperanza? Is that the one where he?
That's the Diamond Dust, the top rope flipping WDT thing.
He's got the Esperanza, he's got the Victoria, he's got the Valencia, he's got the combination.
Caperon.
There's like so many. Like I'm like, just call them by their names, bro.
Yeah, stop confusing us.
Confusing me, dude.
But yeah, then the closing stretch was awesome as Sabre hits a penalty kick, a DT, and he hits another a big spinning Zach driver here to get the win, and kind of breaking from what he did in the whole tournament when tapping people out. He goes to the Zach driver, and I don't know if you've seen any of the post-match promos where he's talking about how, like, in the middle of the match, like, George Michael was, like, talking to him, and
yeah, I saw that.
In previous matches, he talked about how he said, you need to use techers, and so he would use his submissions, and then he's like, he was like, first George Michael was like, I'm here to tell you the same advice, you need to use techers, and Sabre's like, well, you already told me that, and he's like, oh, well, in that case, use a Zach driver. He's like, all right, so I got up and I used a Zach driver.
That's really funny. Yeah, I saw that. One of the things I noticed in this match too, again, very similar to what I was kind of mentioning with the Shingo match, was like towards the tail end. Yeah, they did do a bunch of like back and forth, spots with like submission, near fall, going back and forth. But there was a point where like, it just felt to me like I knew Zach was winning. Like I had no doubt Zach was winning. But then he kept getting so many close near stoppages on some of these submissions and some of those penalty kicks. And it was mounting and mounting and mounting. And like Naito was falling further and further behind. And I was like, fuck, he's falling so far behind that it feels like he's going to get the upper hand and win this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting nervous. Kind of like the same thing they did with Shingo. Kind of like how it felt a little bit against Will. But instead of doing that, that formula where one guy looks really, really strong just before they get defeated, he just kept looking strong. And then eventually, like, it was too much to handle. And it was like, boom, that penalty kick. And then, like you said, the spinning DDT. And then finally the Zach driver. And I was like, fuck, he did it. Like, this is awesome. But it was just, it was really crazy. Like, I was just kind of on the edge of my seat when it came to this whole thing. And two things I've noticed when it comes to Zack Sabre Jr. that's a little different than in the past. Like, you look back at his 2018 G1 or New Japan Cup, and in that one, he was eating most of his opponents alive. The matches were still great. He was still great, but we had some complaints about like the tone, the psychology, the pacing of those matches. Zach's really not doing all that anymore. Like, he's not putting guys in submissions that they're so compromised they can't get out of, and then just releasing them and then going into another one and then having to have like some sort of weird kayfabe explanation about him being sadistic as to why he's not finishing these guys. Instead, he's working these moves a lot smarter and like starting smaller and then moving to something that's a little bit more. For instance, it's kind of similar. Like, remember when Samoa Joe would like have a guy like in a submission, the guy almost gets out, and then he works that into something even more vicious, and then they almost get out. And now he's got him in like a Kakina clutch or some shit.
Yeah,
that's kind of what Zach's been doing, but on a higher level. Mixing that in with chain grappling and strikes and kind of creating these very complex grapple spots that like they don't look like spots, but coming from someone who's done a little bit of wrestling, those are spots. They're laid out in the same psychology and style as spot wrestling is. It's very high level and very like crazy, and it's a lot more dynamic than him just having Ishii like so tied up that he can't do anything. He has to get to a rope, and there is still a little bit of that, but he's really elevated his psychology of his matches. The second thing is, in the past, the story with Zach has always been he's not a striker, but he gets goaded into striking, and that's his undoing. And in these matches, because he's added some bulk and he's become a smarter wrestler, at least in the kayfabe sense, he's using his strikes to set up openings for the submissions.
Yeah.
You know, which is a similar mindset to what you'd see in MMA. Now, I'm not saying he couldn't do that all along. I'm sure the story that he's wanted to tell in the past didn't call for that. But as of right now, as a character, that's what he's doing. It's like he is getting into these strike exchanges, and then just before he's going to get the worst of it, boom, he's goading them into thinking they have the upper hand and getting openings to go for legs, go for arms, go for necks, what have you. I love this. Like, I've been really impressed with, like, for instance, Jonathan Gresham this year. And, you know, I see all the memes, working on, bro. But, like, anyone who's actually watching Jonathan Gresham realizes he's not doing that shit. Like, he is on a fucking high level when it comes to his grappling. But, like, bro, Zach's past him right now. And as great as Bryan Danielson is, and this is the best Bryan Danielson's looked forever, Zach's past him too, man. Like, Zach has figured some next level stuff out. Like, these sequences that he did in this tournament with Naito and with Ospreay, bro, even the Doki match, and the Shingo match, like, there's no doubt he's the wrestler of the month this year. And like, last thing I'll say, and then I'll kick it over to you. I know that this is not going to probably be the case. We have so much more year left, but at the quarter mark of the year, the first quarter, if you were to stop time right now and ask who is the wrestler of the year, for me, it's Zack Sabre Jr.
Yeah, and that actually kind of plays into first question we had here from Les Commission 7252 says, before he won the New Japan Cup, I predicted that Zack Sabre Jr. will win New Japan MVP in the awards at the end of the year. As we're in March right now, who do you guys predict will win MVP?
Kazuchika Okada. I don't see anybody being able to fully surpass him this year, just because he's got a lot of big main events, a lot of title matches. I think he has a chance of winning the G1 as champion.
Yeah. I think the way that Okada is positioned, yeah, he's going to definitely win, like, Tokyo Sports Award for our, Keeping It Strong Style Wrestler of the Year. I know I think it's a little bit too early to tell. You really can't really tell until after G1, but I think our voters vote a little bit more for the in-ring than just kind of the kayfabe positioning. So I do feel like, if you stop time right now, I think Zach would be one of the top guys getting votes for Wrestler of the Year or MVP, whatever you want to call it, depending on where you're voting. Moving on to Raising Falcons, I loved ZSJ versus Will Ospreay match. Is currently my match of the year. Those matches rank in the top 3 matches of the year in New Japan for you guys?
I think so. Yeah. Things have been kind of weird still, being in this like artificial environment with clap crowds. I really want to get back to like full strength crowds, full attendance, everything. But for me right now, I think that the match with Will and the match with Shingo are both up there. They're probably in my top 5 for the year.
Yeah, I'd agree. Those are just excellent stuff. Two guys that he has great chemistry with. And, I've seen a lot of high marks of this Naito match as well. Also, I think Zach's whole tournament was just really great. Even though you mentioned the Doki match, like that was a great match. And then, yeah, that closing stretch of Ospreay, Shingo, Naito, really great stretch of wrestling there for Zack Sabre Jr. Raisin also asked, he said, this year's New Japan Cup started off real slow with the first 3 rounds. Once most of the lower end talent was eliminated from the quarterfinals forward, it felt like a completely different tournament. Would you say that 40-man New Japan Cup with no outside talent is too big for NJPW? How many wrestlers do you think is the right amount for the New Japan Cup?
It really just depends. I mean, we've seen them do 32-man cups pretty effectively, although in my opinion, I've almost always preferred the 16-man cup tournaments to the 32-man cup tournaments. I really just think it depends on how you book it out and what talent you have available and what stories you're going for. But yeah, I mean, the first 3 rounds of this tournament, it was pretty much scratch picks. And I mean, mainly that's because you had dads and lions and no hopers and people that were just, there's no way they're going to win. And that takes some of the intrigue and excitement of the upsets and the high caliber first round matches that you're used to seeing in early parts of New Japan Cups. It takes that part away. but then it sets you up for a stronger second half of the tournament, which is not what we're used to getting from New Japan Cup. I do think I'd like something a little more balanced, personally. But, my favorite single elimination New Japan tournament in the past, like, say, decade is easily not a New Japan Cup tournament. It's that U.S. title tournament that they did in America. And that's because almost every match was bangers. They had 8 men, and all of them had 4 stars or better matches. And so I'll take an 8-man 2-night tournament where they just go out there and fucking kill it any day of the week.
Yeah, G1 special in San Francisco. I am okay with a 32-man tournament if you have availability to more outsiders and you can do some more intriguing things. If you don't really have the ability for outsiders, I would say you kind of stick to that 16-man format, kind of stick with your top dogs and go from there. But I definitely,
Jeremy, then you can't do as many shows if you do that.
That's true. Yeah, you can't get as much, the profit you need. Raising Falcon's last question from 1 to 10: how probable is it of ZSJ winning the IWGP World Championship?
On this title defense, I think it's more probable, let's say, that he wins the title in a shock in this next title defense than it will be for Naito to win the title in May. But that being said, I still think it's highly, highly unlikely. I would go like 3 out of 10.
Yeah, I was going to say like 2 out of 10. I don't think the chances are very high for Zack winning, especially with the seeds that they laid with Naito beating Okada. It seems clear, especially running a big dome in May, that they're going to do one of their biggest, strongest matches, Okada Naito world title rematch, and kind of run that in May. I have a hard time believing that they would have had Naito get that win and then not do that title match right away.
Well, who is your pick to win the whole tournament? Was it Cobb?
Yes.
So, I mean, you picked Cobb. I picked Okan, and it ultimately ended up being Zack Sabre Jr. But what was the commonality that we had amongst all those 3 individuals? All 3 of them are people that have never won the title. All 3 of them are people that haven't challenged for the title in, I guess Cobb. Well, no, I guess Zack has recently, but still, all 3 of them are people that probably are not going to win the title in the next challenge at all, but really could have benefited in a major way by being the guy that won the tournament, went through a killer's row, and then has a great match against Okada and gets made in defeat. I think for both of you and I, it's not that we didn't think Zack couldn't be that person. It just seemed unlikely since he's already done it before. We've kind of told that story, but I feel like they've done it in a new and fresh way to where it's like, of course it can be Zack. He's even better than he was before. And I'm kind of excited for what's on the horizon for him beyond this title defense, because do I think he could be an IWGP champion in the future? Yes, I do. And I think that they've kind of established that in this tournament, even more so than they did in 2018.
Yeah, and there was a news story that came out from Voices of Wrestling last week on their Patreon, kind of talking about some news and notes of behind-the-scenes things happening in New Japan right now and with this tournament. And there is, in that story, talking about that it seemed like Ibushi was the one that was penciled in to win this tournament, to do Ibushi Okada at Hyper Battle, but then with Ibushi not being cleared, that kind of threw the booking up in the air, and the winner was coming from the right side of the bracket, and there were people arguing for Great Okan to win, there were people arguing for Sabre to win, and so clearly the people who were fighting for Sabre got their voice heard, and Sabre's the one to come through the tournament, and I think that was a good call to make. I think it would have been cool for Okan to win. I think the logic there was they didn't want to blow off Okan's first big title match so soon. But I think Sabre was a good call, and he's a credible challenger, a guy who can have a great match with Okada and it being a great world title match in that Hyper Battle main event.
Yeah, I agree.
Rambone Slam Pig asks, does ZSJ get a title opportunity like this at this point in time if he didn't stick around for the pandemic and show such significant loyalty to the company. Is this a thank you push, a calendar filler, or something more?
I think it's a little bit of all those things. I think him sticking around has helped. I think him taking his physical fitness a little more seriously really helped a lot. Um, and yeah, I think the fact of the matter is he fits the bill of what they were looking to do in this spot in April. Someone that they can heat up at a moment's notice, that can have a great match, that is believable and would mean something in defeat, and is also a fresh challenger, because keep in mind that last title match he had with Okada was all the way back in 2018. So yeah, I think it fits the bill. And I think, could it be a little bit of an attaboy? Yes, but it's also sort of like he earned this. I mean, look at the strides. It's really hard when you're a guy that has won best technical wrestler in the world for this many years straight to keep improving. And at this point, anyone who's watching him, it'd be hard for them to not say that he's not improving. I mean, there's a point where like there's a lot of people out there detracting from Zack Sabre. Oh, he's boring. Oh, yeah. I mean, anyone who's watching him today, I would laugh in your face if you said that Zack Sabre in 2022 was a boring wrestler. This guy goes out there and has fucking bangers every single time, you know?
Yeah. I definitely think it's just more than a thank you. I think there's a lot of things that were going for Zack Sabre Jr. I think it's kind of the right time, right place. Dangerous Techers are kind of on ice right now. You did a lot with them last year in the tag team titles. Like, there wasn't much for them to do quite at this moment. So kind of shifting from Dangerous Techers, putting on the weight, like you mentioned on commentary, they talked about the amount of kilos that he put on. You can see that he's, bigger in stature, and I'm sure that helped as well. He's been, learning the Japanese language, kind of what we saw with like Omega and Ospreay, like living in Japan, learning the language, and really kind of, winning over the Japanese crowd. And even Kevin Kelly mentioned they're kind of seeing Zack as, one of their own now. And so I'm sure that helped a lot in the situation. Like you mentioned, the Okada Sabre match being pretty protected. Those guys have only had 3 singles matches, 2 in New Japan, 1 in Rev Pro. And Sabre's only beaten Okada once in Rev Pro. He has not beaten Okada in New Japan yet. So there's a whole story they can tell there with the Okada Sabre matchup. Like you mentioned, haven't done the big title match since 2018. Then they faced in the G1. So whole ton of story here that they can tell. So I think it was right place, right time. A lot of good things going for Sabre. And so I think it's a little bit more of a thank you. I think it definitely helped that he was hit there during the pandemic, but I don't think that's the only reason they decided to go with him. Then Rambones also asks, will the wholesome bromance between ZSJ and Taichi someday become as legendary as a tale of the Golden Lovers?
I mean, for some people, it already is.
Yeah. Post match, that Zack did a promo in the backstage press comments, and of course Taichi was there and they're celebrating, and they had their little moment there, and Taichi very supportive of Zack here. So yeah, I mean,
yeah, I really enjoyed the post match celebration with Zack and Taichi there. Just like you said, very wholesome. It's good to sometimes see tag team partners that actually support each other and actually get along. I'm not saying could they ever break up someday and have a great feud, sure, but like it's kind of refreshing to not like watch a tag team get together and then watch the 4 to 6 month arc where they're gonna like start feuding.
Right. And it was kind of like we were talking about earlier with the whole Tama stuff. It's like, I feel like you could do this with Tama. Like, you can do single stuff with Tama and still have him be with Tangaloa. You don't necessarily have to break them up. And like Dangerous Techers, like, they're not broken up. They're both still in Suzuki-gun. They still team together. But this was a single season. Both of them were in the tournament. Zack got to the finals and won. And you're pushing Zack, but Dangerous Techers is still a thing. So that pretty much wraps up the finals there. Big win for Zack, getting the streamers and stuff at the end, getting the New Japan Cup again, cutting the post-match promo.
He said it was coming home. It came home.
Yeah. So that pretty much, wraps up the New Japan Cup. Do have a couple of questions here about the tournament overall. Rambo and Slam Pig asks, on the bounce, does the ratio of good stuff from the last couple rounds make up for some of the boring early round shows, or does the dilution of good content blunt the impact of the really good matches toward the end?
The dilution of good content from the dilution of good content does get blunted. I'm trying to read what he said. Let me just make it very simple. The the shitty quality of the early shows killed any hype or momentum that they might have had for this tournament going into the finals. There was very little buzz about this tournament, about these matches at the very end. I think maybe some good faith, like word of mouth towards the tail end, might have got some people intrigued, but there's a reason why they usually do upsets in the early part of the tournament. There's a reason why they do big matches in big main events almost every night of the tournament all throughout. And I think there were some, people that got injured, some people that weren't ready to go, and that might have killed some of their plans. But dude, they kind of got greedy with it by putting too many people in, and they did dilute and water down the early parts of the tournament to where it was cannon fodder shit that you didn't need to watch, and it did make the good stuff towards the tail end of the tournament, it bogged it down and it killed the momentum of the tournament. You don't want that, and I don't want that. And I could definitely feel that from the fandom and from people that are peripheral watchers. And I don't think that was a good thing at all. I think that that's a big swing and a miss. I think they missed the mark here.
Yeah, definitely hurt having that slow opening to the tournament. Like you mentioned, I think it did kill a lot of people's attention. New Japan is lukewarm right now for some people. And I think it's going to take a lot for New Japan to get people really invested again and to catch their interest. And so I'm sure the slow start really probably turned some people off. And yeah, all these great Zag matches we're talking about are not getting the buzz that they should be getting. And as the tournament was going on, we look at sites to see reviews and kind of see what everybody's thinking. But towards the tail end of the tournament, I'm looking at F4W Online. I'm looking at 411 Mania. I'm looking at voicesofwrestling.com, and there's no reviews. There's nobody talking about these shows. I didn't start seeing reviews and content again until we got to the semifinals and finals. But, the middle of the tournament up until before semifinals, nobody was talking about it. Nobody's covering it. It just kind of fell in a void.
Yeah, totally agree. The other thing too that I don't think helped was the underperformance of the wrestling matches on the left side of the bracket, considering the fact that you had matches with Taichi. Well, I guess I shouldn't count him. Mishima and Okada and Tanahashi and Jeff Cobb and Naito. I would have expected much higher caliber of matches, and they had good matches, but most of those matches were not truly great matches. Most of the really good stuff that came out of this tournament was on the right side of stuff with Romu, stuff with Suzuki, stuff with Ospreay, stuff with Shingo, stuff with Ishii, those guys, and Zach, of course. So, the right side of the tournament's where all the hot shit was, and there was a couple great matches on the left side, but it didn't compare. I mean, B block rules.
Yeah, the right side was definitely like a G1 B block where you have all the killers and all the bangers are happening.
Yeah.
Reddit user Grunty Dodds asks, how would you rank the pandemic era New Japan Cup tournaments? I'm presuming 2020 is going to come in dead last.
At this point, I'm how many have we had now? Is this the third one?
Yeah, so 2020, 2021, and 2022.
I don't even, it's hard for me to even, remember all the New Japan Cups that we've watched over the years, so I don't know. I'd probably say this was I don't know. 2020 might be the highest one.
Yeah, I think obviously 2020 has the
evil win.
Yeah, you have the evil win. So the conclusion of the tournament was not great, but there were a lot of bangers.
The tournament itself was great until the final.
Yeah.
That might be better than these two.
Yeah.
I don't know. They all kind of sucked.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely pros and cons to all of them. 2021, you had Ospreay, Shingo. You had Shingo running through former New Japan Cup winners to get to the finals.
It's tough. I don't know. I'm not gonna play that game. Plus, I'm getting tired.
Ready for Viking Payne says, what was your favorite match in this year's tournament?
That's a tough one. I've thought a lot about it. I think it's still. I don't know. It's either Zach and Will or Zach and Osprey. Or Zach and Will. It's either Zach and Shingo or Zach and Osprey. I don't know which one I like better.
Yeah, I'm stuck between those two as well.
For me, it was like I liked a lot of Zach and Will better, but that finish, I wasn't the biggest fan of that finish, and I think that detracted for me a little bit.
Mm.
And then on the Zach Shingo side, that one's just like almost flawless, but like it didn't have the same level of sequences. I mean, bro, there was some sequences in that Zach Will match that was like next level. So they're different matches. It's really hard for me to say. I mean, probably Zach Will, if I'm going my gut. But I mean, toss a coin, you know?
Yeah, I think I might be leaning a little bit more towards the Shingo match. But yeah, you ask me tomorrow, I could say the Will match. And you ask me the next day, I could say Shingo again. Like, they're just both incredible.
The finish of the Zach Shingo match is like so good.
Yeah. All right, well, that wraps up our 2022 New Japan Cup coverage, and we know the next tour on deck is the Hyper Battle Tour. So we do have a show coming up next Monday, April 4th in Corkin Hall, which is essentially a Road to show to build to the big Hyper Battle show happening April 9th in Sumo Hall. We'll run through these cards. We'll do a more in-depth preview next week on these shows. So on April 4th, Corkin Hall, we have Wato and Taguchi teaming up with Oiwa to take on Fale, ELP, and Taiji. We have Doki and Kanemaru taking on Bushi and Shingo. Tanahashi and Jado versus Chase and Gato. Despy and Taka versus Dick Togo and Sho. Hanare, Okan, Cobb, and Ospreay versus Goto, Yano, Yoshihashi, and Makabe. Semi-main event, Hiromu and Naito versus Evil and Udro. And then the main event, Dangerous Tekkers versus Okada and Toru Yano. And then that takes us to the big Hyper Battle Sumo Hall show happening on April 9th. And we have the full card for that. Main event, Okada versus Sabre for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Desperado defends the IWGP Junior title against Sho. Goto and Yoshihashi, Bishamon, they will defend the tag titles against United Empire's Great Okan, Jeff Cobb. Evil will defend the Never title against Hiromu Takahashi. Then we'll have a KOPW 2022 Provisional Trophy title match as Toru Yano defends against Taichi. Toru Yano's rules were a Cherry Blossom Party match where the competitors would drink sake at 2-minute intervals, similar to the Kanemaru match. And then Taichi's rules were a no-rope ring-out match, force your opponent out sumo style to win. So essentially a sumo style matchup. And it does seem like Taichi's rules are winning right now. 6 or 9 will defend the junior tag titles against ELP and Taiji. Naito and Shingo will take on Ospreay and Aaron Hanare. And the show will open up with Jado and GOD teaming with Tanahashi to take on the Bullet Club team of Fale, Gato, Yujiro, and Chase Owens. And why did you do that, bro? Ask thoughts on this stacked Hyper Battle card, or thoughts on how stacked the Hyper Battle card is. Do you think the junior tag or the KOW match should have been on the Corkin show, or is having 6 title matches on a B-level show a good thing?
This is a great thing. I mean, this is how New Japan used to operate on the regular, and it's something we've complained about. You know, they've gotten too cute with it over the years and split really good shows into 3, 2, 3, 4, 5 nights, you know, where it's like, we'll give you 3 of these matches one night and then 3 of these matches on another night. And it's like, dude, just do one show. Like, you know, so I'm excited that they're doing this. Now, I think it's the right time to do it because, to be honest with you, I'm just being honest, Jeremy. This is not like, looking at this isn't like my most anticipated like match lineup ever or anything like that. But then at the same time, I think back, when was the last time we had a full lineup like this that was all occurring in one night, that was all like stories that are being paid off with title title implications. It's been a very, very long time. So just from that one aspect alone, it's pretty exciting. But then again, I'm looking at him like it's Desperado's show. It's Evil Hiromu, it's Yano Taichi. I mean, those are good matches, but they're not like, I'm not like expecting to have like a Dominion or Wrestle Kingdom level experience. But this is how New Japan used to operate and how they should be operating on the regular. This should not be like an anomaly that like people are getting so worked up and excited about. And hopefully as things improve and continue on, we get more of this and this becomes like a regular institutionalized like practice,
Yeah, I was very happy to see that we're getting one big show with all these matchups and everything that's been built on this New Japan Cup tour, all kind of culminating here. Like you mentioned, yeah, you look at some of the matchups, and yeah, this is not like the greatest card from top to bottom, but I think there's a lot of gems on here, and I think it's going to be an overall good show. We know Okada Sabre is going to be an excellent main event. I think Bishamon versus United Empire is going to be really good. Hiromu seems to have cracked the code and having good matches with Evil. I think that could be a fun title match, especially if Hiromu wins. I think the sumo match of Taichi and Yano could be short and entertaining. 6 or 9 versus ELP and Taiji could be a lot of fun. Naito and Shingo versus Ospreay and Hanare should be good. And then, we've been seeing this continuation of the Bullet Club, or, GOD teaming with Tanahashi and then going against Bullet Club. That storyline's been really hot. So there's a lot of things working here. I mean, the only thing I'm really down on this card is Desperado and Show, which I'm sure is going to be who can out-cheat the other the most. And, I mean, it'll be what it is, but I think everything on the card is going to be really good.
No. I don't mean to, like, shit-talk the card. It's a really good-looking card, but we've been so deprived of stuff like this that people are looking at it and they're, like, salivating like it's not, like, cube steak,
Right.
They're like, this is a filet mignon. I'm like, it's really good cube steak. They seasoned it well. It's a flank steak. It's gonna taste good. Provided they season it right. They get the right acidity in there. But like, this is not filet mignon. This is not Wrestle Kingdom.
Right.
That being said, this should be normal standard practice. We shouldn't be like deprived for years from one night where we get this kind of lineup. And we've become accustomed to 4 matches on an 8-match card full of multi-man preview matches that all belong on a Cork and Hall show. So no, I don't want to see any of these matches on the Road to show. Let the Road to show be a preview. Let this show be the show in Sumo Hall. So I'm excited for this. And I'm, considering how good all the wrestlers in New Japan were, if lightning struck and they really were motivated and they really wanted to, could this turn out to be much higher like caliber level than what I'm saying it is? Absolutely. Like, is there any reason Desperado and Show couldn't go out there and have like one of the best junior matches of the year if they really, really wanted to? Absolutely, they could. Will we get that? I don't know. I hope we do. We'll see.
Yeah. Viking Pain asks, with Hiromu challenging for their title soon, will this be the beginning of Hiromu being moved into the heavyweight division?
I don't know if that's what's going to happen soon, but I think that this is them testing the waters for that potential. Then again, we saw Kushida challenge for the Never title. It never led to anything. And, oftentimes guys are capped as far as not their frame, but their height. And Hiromu is not necessarily a tall guy. Then again, I found him to be pretty believable in the heavyweight ranks every time I've seen him go up against heavyweight. So I don't know. If it was up to me, sure, I would do it. I mean, I don't know how many more stories are left to tell at junior for him, but
yeah, I mean, if I were them, I would follow that, Shingo Ospreay playbook of, having the junior guy go for the Never title, win it, have a Never title run, and then, start transitioning him into being a heavyweight. Because like we mentioned, there's only so many times that you can have, Hiromu win Super Juniors, go to Wrestle Kingdom, win the title, eventually lose the title, face off against Despy. Like they've been telling, I think they've kind of reached the point of all the stories that you can really tell in Hiromu in the junior division. And I think kind of keeping him in the junior division, even though he is a star, I think at some point can be a hindrance to the division, because then it becomes just Hiromu and friends. And the division's built around one guy, and if he's not in it, then the division doesn't draw. So I think moving him out of the division will help, build up guys like Desperado and allow Desperado and other juniors to kind of carry that mantle, and then you can, move Hiromu into the heavyweight division.
Nice. Well, that's going to do it for our coverage of New Japan Cup. Thank you guys for your questions. Moving on very briefly, New Japan has announced that they have a Washington, D.C. debut show that is on the upcoming horizon. Captial Collison is set for Saturday, May 14th. That's one day before my birthday. You guys can send me gifts. And one day before the beginning of Best of the Super Juniors. With a major talent lineup that includes Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, plus AEW's Jon Moxley. The event is scheduled while the Best of the Super Juniors will be taking place in Japan, so the company's top heavyweight talent are available for the show in the U.S. While not explicitly stated, it appears that the event will be a pay-per-view rather than a strong taping. Ishii, Suzuki, Ospreay, Jay White, Filthy Tom Lawler have all been announced for the show. No matches have been announced as of yet. Tickets for the show at the Entertainment Sports Arena will go on sale Monday, April 4th at 12 p.m. Eastern. Ticket prices will range from $25 all the way up to $299. So the full announced lineup, we have Okada, Tanahashi, Jon Moxley, Jay White, Ospreay, Suzuki, Ishii, Jeff Cobb, Tom Lawler, and Fred Rosser. So, that's it's pretty awesome. And we've heard some things about criticisms about the Strong and just New Japan of America business model in general. And I don't think that those are completely unfounded, but one of the added benefits of having tours in the States is that when you're doing something like Best of the Super Juniors and all those heavyweights can't compete, they do have availability to come over here, and now they've got a place to kind of operate. Vice versa. I'm not going to be surprised if come August when they're running G1, if all the juniors are going to be working stateside, and I think that that's something people haven't really thought about, but we're kind of seeing that here.
Yeah, I was pretty excited about this. New Japan, they did the kind of similar thing they did with Windy City Riot, where they're kind of teasing out the city on social media, kind of getting some buzz for the announcement. So yeah, pretty cool here. Captial Collison, a lot of big names here. Seems like we can get some big singles matches potentially on this show. So looking forward to New Japan coming to Washington, D.C.
Do you think Chris Jericho and his wife will make their way out to D.C. for the show?
Who knows? Maybe.
Wouldn't be the first time they were there.
This past Saturday, we had the conclusion of the Rivals Tour. So the show opened up. We had Daniel Garcia, Red Def, the sports entertainer, defeating Yuya Uemura 10 minutes and 39 seconds.
He's a sports entertainer, and he beats up pro wrestlers. That's exactly what he did here.
Yeah, this Garcia was stretching this man, Uemura, showing him how sports entertainers get it done, and was able to get the submission victory over the LA Dojo excursion student here.
That's one of the few things that's going to get over with me almost always is when soft dudes in wrestling say they beat people up. Like when Miz was like, I beat people up. I don't know. I just think that's so funny.
Good seeing Garcia here getting a win. Definitely a guy I'm interested in seeing more on New Japan Strong, and we will be seeing more of him on Strong.
I thought this match was good. I think maybe didn't quite live up to the hype. People had really high standards for it, but 10 minutes, I could have probably asked for more from these guys. They went out there, had a really good match.
Yeah. Then second matchup, we had the anticipated big singles match between Black Tiger 8, the underground Black Tiger. He defeats Rocky Romero 11 minutes 2 seconds. Been building up to this big singles match for a while now, but Black Tiger 8 ends up picking up the win here.
Yeah, he cheated. Got a cheap victory. The feud's continuing. We saw that on the most recent tapings that took place here in Tampa just the other week, and it didn't look like it's slowing down anytime soon. It's not a spoiler, but one thing is on the commentary, they kept mentioning how Black Tiger seemed to know everything about Rocky. And, I'm not going to give the spoiler here. I think I've said I know who it is in the past, and I've said the name. And, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure out the identity of this Black Tiger, but it seems that they're leading to an ultimate revelation of who this Black Tiger actually is and what role he plays in the history of Rocky Romero. So I think that's where we're heading long term with the story.
Yeah, and this match was actually better than I thought it was going to be. I mean, I don't think, Black Tiger A has been looking great or anything in his showings, but I thought this match was pretty good. The crowd was pretty into it, and Rocky was getting a lot of really good near falls, and really wanted to see Rocky win. And then, like you mentioned, Black Tiger ends up cheating at the end and ends up hitting a Tiger driver and beating Rocky. But I felt like they built up some good heat here, and I'm interested to see where this is going to go.
Yeah, post-match, even though Black Tiger cheated to win, Rocky got his comeuppance and put him in the straight arm bar, and they had to have security and referees and personnel separate them and kind of preserve the arm health of Black Tiger. So
yeah, then the big main event here, we had the 10-man tag elimination match with Team Filthy versus Team Rosser. Team Filthy ended up getting the victory here. So obviously Team Filthy, who had Dan Limelight, Jarrell Nelson, J.R. Kratos, Royce Isaac, and Filthy Tom Lawler. And Team Rosser was Adrian Quest, Clark Connors, Fred Rosser, Taylor Russ, and the DKC.
Yeah, the match was good. Very, enjoyable for a 16-minute, multi-man elimination. I think the most exciting stuff was at the very, very tail end with Adrian Quest kind of being the final survivor going up against Jared Kratos. Adrian Quest is kind of like one of the early seminal characters within the Strong mythos, and he's sort of kind of gone by the wayside in a certain sense, has kind of become an afterthought. And they kind of put a little bit more shine and attention on him here in this match, which I thought was cool. Ultimately, obviously, Jared Kratos got him out of there, but the crowd was really behind Adrian Quest, and it was smart because I think they were like near his hometown, anyways.
Yeah, they're in Hollywood, California, and it does seem like some of the West Coast guys, they don't really travel out as much as some of the other Strong tapings that happen like on the East Coast.
I was wondering what that was. That makes sense.
Yeah, so we don't see like Dan Limelight all the time or some West Coast Wrecking Crew. A lot of these like West Coast guys, we don't always see them when they're doing more of like the East Coast or maybe like Midwest type of stuff. And
I have a question, and I don't know if you thought of this, but you just tell me if I'm off base here. Do you think that the Logan twins are members of House of Black on the low?
Maybe. I mean, they've been gone for a while now. They're teaming with Brody. Maybe they're kind of being rebuilt and really studying the House of Black and their ways.
Yeah, I won't be surprised with how much magic they have involved with that group. Maybe they need some twin magic.
Something I noticed about this matchup, I thought was kind of interesting. They're building to Connors being the next challenger, but this was labeled as Team Rosser versus Team Filthy, not Team Connors versus Team Filthy. So
I noticed that too, and I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, but Clark
did have a good pre-match like promo video for Clark Connors.
Yeah, they did, and they've been doing a great job building this up. And Clark did eliminate Tom by also eliminating himself. He speared Tom off the apron after both of them had went over the top, so both of them got eliminated there, and they brawled to the back, so adding some heat to that. And yeah, good eliminations like you mentioned. J.R. Kratos really being a monster here, eliminated Taylor Russ, and then eliminating Adrian Quest toward the end of the match, and Team Filthy standing strong once again.
So that concludes that episode. Next week, this coming Saturday, April the 5th, New Japan Strong will be airing at 8 p.m. Eastern. I'm sure a lot of people will be watching this Saturday, April the 5th at 8 p.m. There's nothing else that could possibly overshadow New Japan Strong this week at 8 p.m. on a Saturday night.
I mean, I can't think of anything.
I can't think of a single show. So, it's good that everyone's going to be tuning in for New Japan Strong this coming weekend. But no, in all seriousness, good lineup of matches here. This is from the tapings that we attended just the previous week. But first match of the night, Team Filthy, Jared Kratos and Black Tiger. They'll be taking on the team of Chaos, Rocky Romero, and Wheeler Yuta. Wonder how long Wheeler Yuta will remain. Do you think that if he leaves the Best Friends, he can still stay a member of Chaos just because? I think he might be able to.
Yeah, he could finesse that.
Yeah, I don't see why not. Second match of the night, the Mighty Don't Kneel, Jonah and Shane Haste. They take on the team of Finjuice, Dave Finlay and Juice Robinson. And then in the main event, Strong Openweight Championship title will be defended as Tom Lawler defends his title against Clark Connors. So it's a good lineup.
Yeah, good start to the tour. Interesting, these are kind of airing out of the order that we actually saw them in live.
I've said in the past that I think that they air them in different orders than they actually take place. So this kind of confirms that.
Yeah, but yeah, good. This will be a good start for the televised part of this tour.
Also this week, Jeremy will be traveling to WrestleMania weekend in Dallas, and we have a special NJPW Lonestar Shootout show on April the 2nd. That's Friday at, I believe, 5 p.m. Is that Eastern or was that 5 p.m.?
5 p.m. Central Texas time.
Gotcha. Okay. Now there's some matches on the show that are going to be New Japan Strong exclusive that will not be airing on the Fight TV broadcast, and then there's some that will be probably dual cast, I assume. Maybe I'm wrong. But the New Japan Strong exclusive matches are Chris Bay and Hikuleo versus Bateman and Barrett Brown. Second match, Tom Lawler, Royce Isaacs, and J.R. Kratos. They'll take on Fred Rosser, Alex Coughlin, and the DKC. And then Jonah versus Blake Christian. Now the matches that will be airing on the Fight TV lineup include Juice Robinson, Dave Finlay, Daniel Garcia, and Kevin Knight as they team up against Escara Dorada, Carl Fredericks, Clark Connors, and Yuya Uemura. Next match, Rocky Romero will be taking on Ren Narita. The next match after that, Tomohiro Ishii will take on Chris Dickinson, returning from his long layoff and injury. Semi-main event, we have Killer Cross making his NJPW debut against Minoru Suzuki. And then the main event, USFJ Open Challenge as Jay White takes on Speedball Mike Bailey. And Jeremy, give us your thoughts. Talk to us about WrestleMania weekend. You're leaving on a jet plane, going off to Lone Star State.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to check out this show. I'm really pumped for Ishii versus Chris Dickinson. Should be a lot of fun. If you are going to Dallas and need a ticket, Floyd Johnson, he has 2 tickets that he is trying to sell because he's going to go to the Ring of Honor show instead. But I will be at the Lone Star Shootout and also will be at the multiverse of matches following the Lone Star Shootout. So seeing Ishii wrestle twice in one night should be a treat. But yeah, this Lone Star Shootout, looking forward to what they have here. I feel like Killer Cross and Suzuki could be really good. Jay White and Speedball should be fun. Rocky and Narita, that should be great. So really good stuff here for New Japan. Obviously, it's not, Madison Square Garden Mania weekend, level, but still should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm really torn because that Impact show looks very good and has a lot of New Japan representation. And then obviously the New Japan show does as well. But when I heard that there were going to be some matches that were held off for Strong, I was kind of confused by that decision. Also confused about is that taking place when did the doors open for you? Are you getting in at 4, I'm guessing, and watching those early matches? Is that what's happening? It doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I'm not sure the order and how they're taping this thing.
Okay.
I would assume, maybe you do those strong matches first, and then you air the Fight TV special and run those matches in that order, and not have to worry about doing the special first and then being stick around to watch Jonah versus Blake Christian.
What time does the Impact show start?
Starts at 9.
Okay, so you're going to be running up against the clock. You might even miss some of the early part of that.
Well, it's in the same venue.
Oh. Okay, so they can't go overtime because they actually need enough buffer time to like clean up and prep for the Impact show.
Right, yeah. So both of these are WrestleCon shows happening in the same venue.
Great.
So yeah, that'll be really easy for me. For multivisor matches, I'm excited to see again. Ishii versus Eddie Edwards. They're doing an Ultimate X match. I've never seen an Ultimate X match live. So that should be pretty cool to see live. They're running back Jay White and Sabin. So that show should be pretty fun.
You see, you think they're going to be able to pull a fast one on Jeremy, but nah, they don't understand. Like, we're not noobs when it comes to, WrestleMania weekend plans. We know where to go. We know where to be, how to maximize, our viewing efforts. And, hats off. I'm proud. I'm proud that you worked that out. Now, I will say this. I am interested in both the New Japan and the Impact show because of some of the matches you mentioned, but at the same time, they're running head to head with the ROH show, and that's probably like the key indie show of the entire weekend.
Yeah, it's very conflicting. When I jump ship with Floyd and JR and go to Ring of Honor, but being one half of the ace of podcasts, I will watch Lonestar Shootout. I will watch Ishii wrestle twice in one night. I will see my first Ultimate X match live, so I know the Honor show is probably going to be really great, but I will catch that on the replay.
Well, I was looking at, everything that's going on with WrestleMania weekend, and I mean, it's not still quite up to the level of what we're used to with a traditional WrestleMania weekend, but I mean, it's not what we got the last 2 years in Tampa, I'll tell you that much. So, I mean, some of the shows that looked Thursday, the shows that looked really interesting to me, Bloodsport, which you're going to that show, right?
Yes.
And then the Mark Hitchcock Super Show, and you're going to that show as well. So, yeah. And then Friday, the New Japan, the Ring of Honor, the Impact shows, those are all kind of, around the same time. I'm probably going to watch the Ring of Honor show and then cherry pick the Impact show. And then, I'm sure I'll get around to watching the New Japan show as it airs. Now, is it a strong taping or is it just a pay-per-view?
So I think the Fight TV thing, it's kind of confusing, but it sounds like the Fight TV thing is only going to be Fight TV, and the only strong taping matches are going to be because they have a strong taping April 10th for the Mutiny Tour.
That's fine. I mean, I'm still going to watch. I assume at some point this will go up on World, and if it doesn't, I'll watch it either way.
Yeah.
Are you going to spring break at midnight that night or not?
I'm not sure yet. That's going to be a game time decision.
I was looking at that card and I was like, I don't know. That of the two, like the spring break, the first night doesn't really look that appealing to me, but the spring break at midnight, that's the real spring break experience.
Right.
Like, you might want to go to that one.
Yeah, that might be something I look into.
And then the rest of the weekend, on Saturday and Sunday, there's a bunch of indies, but it's all primarily Texas indies. None of the major big shows.
Yeah, I think on Saturday my game plans to check out. There's a USA versus the World that WrestleCon is doing.
I've been to one of those shows and they're good.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of lucha guys on that, and then
so no NXT for you.
No, I will not be going to stand and deliver.
I thought about watching it. I don't really know that much about the brand, but every time I watch it, it sucks. So I don't know. It's just so weird, bro. I mean, think about in the years past, you and I we've been to those shows and we literally were on standby trying to get tickets. Literally it's so hard to get a ticket for for Takeover, and that one in the Barclay, we literally had to sit at the very very tip top of the entire building just to be in the building and go. And now they have so many tickets available for that show. It's not even funny.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And then obviously WrestleMania. So those are the shows that kind of have my main interest. And it sounds like you're going to most of them. Are you going to any of the lucha shows? AAA, GCW lucha show? I know there's a few.
I'm not going to be able to make the AAA show because Bloodsport is going to end at 5:30 and AAA starts at 5. So probably not going to have time to make it over in time for that. I know there are a couple other lucha shows that are happening, maybe depending on what's going on and how I can get around. I might go to some of those. I'm also interested in checking out Thunder Rosa's promotion, Mission Pro. They're running Saturday afternoon. So I think I'm going to check that out.
I heard that show might be good.
Yeah, so I might check that out. See Thunder in action.
But I mean, the good news is, you'll be going to the Impact and the New Japan show. I'll be watching the Ring of Honor show. So we'll kind of be covered on this podcast on all bases. And then I'm sure we can both cherry pick between the two of us what we think needs to be watched. There's so much New Japan representation across WrestleMania weekend this year. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. And like I mentioned, they're also doing the Mutiny Tour coming up on Sunday, April 10th. Another set of Strong taping. So we have the US of J Open Challenge. Jay White facing off against Hikuleo. Chris Dickinson facing off Fred Narita in a rematch. We'll have David Finlay versus Blake Christian. We have a handicap match. Fred Rosser versus the West Coast Wrecking Crew. Black Tiger, J.R. Kratos, and Danny Limelight will take on Rocky Romero, Alex Coughlin, and Adrian Quest. Freddie Yehai, Kevin Knight in the DKC versus the Stray Dog Army of Bateman, Barrett Brown, Mysterioso. Tomohiro Ishii will be taking on Big Damo. Jeff Cobb in Aussie Open. Kyle Fletcher and Mark Davis representing the United Empire. They'll take on the Mighty Don't Kneel, Jonah, Bad Dude Tito, and Shane Hayes.
I'm going to put a little star next to that match. That's going to be good.
Yeah. Then Carl Fredericks and Clark Connors will take on the Factories, Nick Camaroto and Aaron Solo with QT Marshall.
That's a Fale Dojo graduate Aaron Solo, mind you.
Yeah. The Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels, will team with Alex Zane to take on Bullet Club's Chris Bay and ELP. Brody King, Taylor Rusk, and Mascot Dorada will take on United Empire's Great Okan, Aaron Hanara, and TJP. So we're getting full United Empire representation here. And then Keita Murray will team with Yuya Uemura to take on Kevin Blackwood and Lucas Riley.
Nice.
So pretty stacked lineup there for Mutiny.
We have other breaking news. New Japan of America is finally officially launching their official fan club here in the United States. Team NJPW USA with an exclamation mark. The official global fan club of New Japan Pro Wrestling is here. Take your NJPW fandom to the next level and sign up to Team NJPW USA to a great selection of fantastic benefits. These include, now, to be a member, you have to pay a one-time annual fee of $50. I know what you're thinking. Why do they want my $50? Is this a grift? Well, for your $50, what you'll be getting is a $30 Tokon Shop Global gift card. So you immediately save money on your next NJPW merch order. Aside from that, you also get fully translated wrestler diaries. You get access to the full thoughts of 16 different NJPW wrestlers, translated from Japanese and updated once a week. I believe this is something that's already available to NJPW fan club members in Japan, but we've never been able to get access to it unless you speak Japanese or unless you have a translator or something like that. So now that's going to become available to you. You get a membership card and a lanyard, so you can show your exclusive if you're marked like that. Exclusive members only merchandise that only you can get that other fans don't have access to. And you also get special gifts at shows. You share your membership card, you get a special gift at NJPW live events, and you also get members only lottery. Every month, members are entered into a lottery to win a wrestler's autograph. So for less than $5 a month, fans from all over the world, not just in the United States, but non-Japanese fans can join the NJPW Wrestling International Fan Club, gain access to all these amazing benefits, help support NJPW's international expansion all at the same time. And we've already seen in the past, yes, the fan club in Japan gets these kind of benefits, but they also get extra things like first run of like big shows. They usually have their own like membership section and opportunities to get early access to tickets and things like that. They didn't make mention of that here, but I would not be surprised if in the future, like let's say hypothetically, remember they were going to run like Madison Square Garden. Let's say they come, they do a big building like that again. You're a member, you probably will get first access to like premier seats at reduced cost that other people don't have access to. So, and that's just my speculation, but we already see that in Japan. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do similar things like that here as well.
Right, yeah, this has been a long time coming. There have been talks and rumors about New Japan, USA fan club for several years now, and now we're finally getting the official fan club here, and this is pretty cool for diehard New Japan fans, and for those people who really wave that New Japan banner. This will be a great thing. I think will help fan investment here in America.
I haven't done it. I might. I probably will.
Yeah, I have not done it yet, but I want the diaries. I want the translations of what these guys are writing on the day to day. So,
do you read Aces High every week when it comes out?
But this is gonna be different.
No, if you can't even read the free content that you're getting right now on NJPW1972.com, what makes you think you're gonna read Yo's diary or Hanma's diary? Come on, bro.
Who says it's gonna be Yo?
It's gonna be Yo. It's always fucking Yo. Come on.
Oh man. Next thing here, we're gonna talk about Lions Roar. They had the big finale episode this week with the conclusion of the series and kind of wrapping up the intake.
Yeah, so if you've noticed over the past few weeks, Jeremy's been lacking. He stopped putting Lions Roar on the rundown sheet. I've been watching it every week, and then I have all these incredible thoughts, and then Jeremy just fucking cuts me out, ices me out of my own show every single week. And it's because I'm putting in the work. He's not. I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm sorry about that. Let me just tell you, Jeremy skipped all the episodes he didn't watch and watched this final and was like, pretty good show.
I really enjoyed Lions Roar, but that ending stretch there, I just did not have time to squeeze them in. I mean, I send you the rundown every week. You could have added them on or tell me to put them on and you could have talked about them. But
no, I don't be looking at the rundown before we start a show. I say, run it. Let's go. Off the dome.
Oh,
I barely
man.
Look at this thing.
Oh, man. But yeah, I did make sure to watch the finale before we recorded here tonight. And, pretty emotional stuff. I mean, they wrapped up the intake and, kind of gave an update on where guys were going and whether they're coming back to the dojo or not. A lot of guys who are stuck in quarantine going home. But I think the really big highlight of this episode was towards the end where Fale is talking to several students, letting them know that they got offered a Young Lion contract to go to the Noge dojo. And one of those guys was Michael Richards, who, appeared in the Young Lion Cup and was kind of one of the key guys in this whole documentary series. 7 years he has been trying to get a Young Lion contract and really been grinding. Great body transformation. We know he told a story at the beginning of the season of how Rocky, kind of laid into him about his shape and his condition and performance, how he was an embarrassment and, shouldn't be in the New Japan ring. And that was all fueled to fire. And guy got in incredible shape, kept showing up to the intake, kept showing up to the dojo, and all that hard work finally paid off. And this guy's going to get to go back to the Noge dojo.
Yeah. So they're bringing Michael Richards in as a young lion, which is very exciting. I saw a picture that he posted today, and it was like, holy fuck, this guy looks like, like Danny Burch or like Fabian Eichner or like Cesaro. I mean, he's shredded to the gills. So that's pretty exciting. I'm happy for him. And we talked about that when this show first started, and they kind of highlighted him. So that's really cool. There were a couple other guys that they said New Japan was offering 1-year contracts to. What does that entail? I don't really know. I think we're going to have to wait and see, because that doesn't mean they're coming in as Lions. They have 1-year contracts with New Japan. And that doesn't mean that they're wrestling, here in the States or even like in Japan. They're employed with New Japan in some capacity. And I don't know what that means. So if those guys ever pop up, we'll see. But it is still exciting, what they're doing with the Fale Dojo over there. A couple things, Jeremy, that you missed over the past few episodes. I'll just give you a brief overview. They started really getting into the heights of the pandemic in the last 2 to 3 episodes, and talking about all the government lockdowns and shutdowns and how that started interfering with what they were doing with the intake and the 3-month programming and all that. And there was a point where they had a conundrum. They didn't do a good job spelling it out, but I kind of pieced it together. The conundrum was, you can't have a gym operating, but you also can't have a certain number of people living in a home together. And they had so many people that they were like, well, we're either going to break one law or the other. Either we separate and have one group live in the house, one group live in the gym, which is not allowed, or or if we're all in one place, then we're breaking the quarantine mandates with the limits of people. So they split into two camps where some of the guys went and stayed at the house, and then Fale and all the coaches and all the guys that were like really serious went and lived in the dojo.
Yeah, I saw that episode.
Okay, well that kind of continued on, but the issue, and I think that they dramatized a lot of this. The issue was that the guys at the house wanted screen time, so they asked the camera crew to come and tape them, and then Fale got pissed, and then he was threatening to kick them out and was wanting them to give them their jackets and everything like that. Why didn't they come live in the dojo? And then some guys felt conflicted because he's asking us to break the law, and he's like, well, if you're asking, you have a problem with breaking the law, but you have no problem asking cameramen to come here and risk their lives and yada yada. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of dramatized, whatever. A few things I'll say about the show, and I'll just leave it at this. As far as the production quality, top notch. As far as showing the grueling toughness of what it takes for just basic wrestling training on that level, really compelling stuff. And I thought that they did a great job capturing a lot of really good footage and everything like that. There were some things that didn't make sense, though. The show was not cohesive, episode to episode. And I think it's because they had to splice so much raw footage together and try to make something out of nothing. That was difficult. At the end of the show, I understood what was happening. This was an intake that was supposed to last, quote unquote, 3 months. But they didn't do a good job even explaining how their camps operate and work from the get-go. And it wasn't until the last episode that I fully understood what the primary goal of the whole show was anyways. I also didn't think they did a good enough job highlighting individuals. There were some episodes where some guys came off really well, but there were so many guys with so many generic names, and just they just kind of all existed that at the end of the show when they were doing the recap of what happened to them post episode, I didn't remember 90% of the guys, you know what I mean? So there were a few guys I had real good investment in, but it's mainly just Michael Richards, honestly, and Fale. Most of the guys were just a cast of people that just happened to be there, you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, ultimately, it did feel like this was the Michael Richards redemption story, which was a big arc throughout the whole series.
I thought that they're on to something, and this was a great start to something that could really be a powerful show going forward if they want to continue with it. But I think that they should look at some other reality TV based shows like The Ultimate Fighter, maybe even just regular trash TV, 90 Day Fiance or Love Island. Those are shows that they might not seem like they have a lot to do with this, but in terms of just highlighting personalities and individuals and getting you invested in them, they do a better job of it than this show did, or The Challenge, for instance. So I think that was kind of the one thing lacking. Last thing that didn't make sense. The pandemic started in 2020. The early part of the show, it's supposed to be a 3-month period, but the early part of the show, these guys are living their life, going on and out and about and doing whatever the fuck, right?
Yeah.
Then suddenly the pandemic hits and they got to split up. But then when they're in the middle of their pandemic, Fale's watching the I Quit match between Toriano and Chase Owens, which just happened last year. And that's not when the pandemic started. These timelines do not add up at all.
The math is not mathing.
This pandemic's been going on for almost 3 years. How does a 3-month show last for 3 years? Something's not right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But other than that, I think they probably definitely took some sort of creative license on some level and all that. But I liked the show. I liked what it was. I think that they just need to work out some kinks. But ultimately, it was good.
Yeah, it's a really great show. Really enjoyed from majority of what I was able to watch. And yeah, I would like to see them continue to do stuff like this. It'd be cool. Yeah, do a series in the U.S. dojo and even the Noge Dojo. Like, it'd be cool to continue to do series like this to highlight the dojo system.
Yeah. So really good stuff there. Let's move on to the news. So a couple big news items here. This past week, there was a video with Will Ospreay that came out on social media, and Ospreay has announced that he has a protege coming to New Japan for the junior division as a member of the United Empire. And this video was really, really high quality, really well done. And it teased this incoming member, but it did not state who this new junior individual protege is. And there's a lot of discourse, a lot of conjecture about who this individual is going to be. It hasn't hit the airwaves on New Japan proper, but whenever they do their next show, whether it's like Hyper Battle, they got to air this. They have to, because it's awesome.
Yeah, this reminds me of what we used to see come Best Super Junior time. There's some new junior that's coming in. We saw like the ELP hype videos, and ELP came in. Robbie Eagles came in. Like, we would get like these hype videos for guys coming into the junior division right before Super Juniors. So it kind of felt like that time of, old times of a new guy kind of coming in and get this big hype video. Ospreay's, burning stuff up and, saying he's going to burn, the junior division to the ground. And since he left, it's not been good, and he's going to burn to the ground, rebuild it in his own image. He has a protege, coming to take over and run the division. He's building his, his kingdom, his empire. Pretty exciting stuff. So, hopefully they do air this at Hyper Battle, because it's, like you mentioned, great quality video, and obviously it's going to be building to Best of the Super Juniors coming up in May.
Yeah. So couple questions from individuals, and this kind of circulates around the predominant rumor that most people are speculating on. Viking Payne asked, who is Big Billy's new junior ace, and do you buy into the Francesco Akira rumors? Likewise, Hawaiian Punch BB asked, thoughts on Francesco Akira potentially joining United Empire? If he is joining NJPW, it gives them a young junior who's already been to Japan. How awkward is the joint All Japan Pro Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling show going to be, especially since All Japan Pro Wrestling invested in him and Tajiri discovered him?
Yeah, so like you mentioned, it does seem a lot of people have been rumoring that Francesco Akira is the mystery man in this video. Honestly, I don't have any other guesses of who it could be. It makes sense as if he recently had a Japan visa and was in Japan recently, and so to get back into the country, it makes sense that it would be him. He did just have that match with Gabriel Kidd a couple months ago in Rev Pro, so that probably was a tryout match for him, and that match was awesome. I think we both went 4.5 stars on that. And that was a great matchup. So that also he passed a tryout with flying colors there. And like we talked about United Empire, they're kind of guys from different countries. So, obviously Ospreay is from the UK. You have Cobb representing Guam. You have Okan representing Japan. Hanare representing New Zealand. And you have Aussie Open representing Australia. You have TJP representing the Philippines. And now, if this is Francesco Akira, he's representing Italy. So again, it's kind of that international building of the United Empire.
Yeah, the one thing we do know is that hand that he handed the lighter to burn up the entire junior division, that was a white hand. Okay?
Yes.
Make no mistakes about it. So it's not going to be a member of us. It's not going to be Michael Oku. It is someone, someone fair-skinned. It could have, I don't know, that could have been, someone that's from Japan, like a domestic star. I don't know, but it did look like someone that had fair colored skin. So, probably a white person. So I think Francesco Akira makes the most sense for all the reasons you mentioned. And I did kind of wonder if that kid match was like a de facto tryout match, which I think it may have been. And I think he would fit really well into New Japan. There could be some awkwardness, I guess, between New Japan and All Japan, but keep in mind, domestic stars typically don't switch because they come up in the dojo systems of their institutions and training schools within Japan, and they kind of stick there for life. But Gaijin wrestlers aren't really held to that same standard. We've seen so many historical Gaijin wrestlers jump from company to company, and that's not that unheard of. So, especially considering the business that All Japan's doing right now, and then the business New Japan's doing, and then the fact that he's wrestling in Rev Pro, and Rev Pro has a partnership with New Japan, I think all the pieces kind of fit there. So, makes sense to me. I think it probably is Francesco Akira. It could be someone else, but that's probably who it is. And I think if it is, that's a great thing for the junior division.
Yeah, it just makes me feel like we are going to get 2-block juniors if they're trying to bring in guys like him. And we're seeing Lindemann being highlighted. It feels like we're going to get 2 blocks.
The only thing I ask is that they just space this shit out, because like this New Japan Cup killed me. I'm trying to study for my licensing, and
Yeah.
Might need to call in a guest. I don't know. WrestleCon meet and greets coming up Thursday. We have New Japan representation. So Tomohiro Ishii is going to be at WrestleCon from 5 to 6, Finn Juice from 6 to 7, Hikuleo from 7 to 8, and then Fred Rosser from 8 to 9. On Friday, Filthy Tom Lawler will be at WrestleCon 10 to 11 a.m., Carl Fredericks from 11 to 12, Jay White from 1 to 2, and Minoru Suzuki from 2 to 3 p.m. And then Saturday at WrestleCon, TJP will be there at 9 a.m., Connors at 10, Rocky at 11, Coughlin at 12, and then Narita and Uemura at 1 p.m. So I'm guessing there's probably like a New Japan booth. These guys will probably all, circulate in and out of it as the time comes. And if you want to meet your favorite New Japan stars, they will be there at WrestleCon this coming week.
Yeah, it'd be pretty cool. 2018 New Orleans, I met Suzuki and Ishii and Tanahashi. So, if you haven't met any of these guys, especially the Japanese talent, it's pretty cool to, I normally am not like a big meet and greet guy and photo op guy, but, it's hard to pass up taking a pic with Ishii and Suzuki and Tanahashi.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so just some few other questions here. Then we'll go to recommended match of the week and close things out. So friend of the show, Dan Coffin says, what are the chances we get Bryan Danielson showing up at Windy City Riot in some capacity, like backing up Mox or whatever?
I think that's possible. I don't know that it's 100% going to happen, but I don't think it's outside of the realm of possibilities at all. So that's something I'm kind of like keeping my fingers crossed for, especially like since Mox is sort of signed to the DC show too. Who knows?
Yeah, and also we know Bryan wants to wrestle New Japan really badly, and so you could have maybe Ospreay maybe cheat to beat Mox, and then Danielson comes out, and maybe it's Ospreay Danielson at DC. Who knows? Or maybe you do United Empire, you do like Ospreay and Cobb versus Mox and Bryan. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of potential there. Let's Commission 7252. What signature and finishing move would you two choose to have?
I don't know. I've always had this idea. I would love to do like a fisherman's brain buster. And I've said this on the show before. Now, I'm not talking about a fisherman's suplex, like a fisherman buster, the way that, like, for instance, Yujiro does a version of that. I'm talking about you lift the dude straight up, right? And he's penciled up, like, literally in like you're Davey Boy Smith Jr. holding the guy up for the prolonged period. And then you reach up and you pull down on the one leg. So it's kind of jackknifed, not to where the guy is like bending, but where he's straight up and then you're crunching him down with that one leg, almost like a muscle buster. And then you come straight down on that shit like a muscle buster. That sounds super dangerous, but like that move sounds fucking awesome, and nobody's ever done it, and like that I know of, and I would like to be the guy to bust everyone's heads with that shit.
Yeah, that would be awesome. In my backyard wrestling days, like my finish was one of the things I always had a hard time really locking down, and I had my main submission finisher was Jurisdiction, which was the Border City stretch that Alex Shelley does. Also, the Gargano escape that Johnny Gargano does. That was my submission finish. But my impact finish, I always changed. I was never really satisfied with an impact finish that I had. But now I think about it, I know I've always really liked like a Death Valley driver, but I feel like that move's kind of been so like diminished.
Played out, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what I would use for an impact.
I mean, like, if we're being honest, I have a finishing move. I just can't unveil it to the world because I'm not there yet. I got a move, and it's fucking awesome, and I know how to do it really well. So, but as far as like a signature in a hypothetical, like not talking about myself, but like the fictional version of myself that's much better at wrestling than I am. Yeah, I think my signature would be like some sort of like probably like some sort of crazy like strike combo, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Like a bunch of palm strikes, maybe like a back fist, knees, head kick, maybe a sweep, like but all those things like bah, 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 like something like that would be sick, you
Quick
know?
rapid fire combo.
Yeah, but, or maybe even like something more measured, like bah, 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 ta, ta, bah, you know, and like everyone knows what it is, but like I'm just like ringing them off, not like AJ Styles or Chase Owens where they do a boom, 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 you know,
Yeah.
but more like measured, like douche, 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 and like you're fucking them up, and they're like just covering up and just taking it. I would, yeah,
That'd be
maybe
dope.
some Muay Thai shit. I don't know.
Last question also asks, he says, I know it's too soon to ask, but do you think we'll see other wrestlers from different Japanese companies in Best Super Junior, such as T-Hawk, El Lindemann, and even Minoru Tanaka, if he's eligible?
I think El Lindemann and Minoru Tanaka are two guys that you could probably pencil down as potentials to be in this year's tournament just because they've already been in the company this year and they work for pretty small groups that don't pose any kind of like political threat to New Japan. If you see anybody come over, I don't think it's going to be anybody. This is just my opinion. Nobody from Noah, nobody from DDT, nobody from All Japan. Probably not anyone from Big Japan, but that's possible. But, you know, guys that are like on the freelance circuit, maybe like from, you know, I know I said Big Japan, but like maybe guys from Big Japan, maybe guys from like Tradition or Glade or, you know, stuff like that. That's possible. That's more like realistic.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think Lindemann, I think it's definitely a very high likely situation. We saw Tanaka come in during the Golden Series. So yeah, if they're doing 2 blocks and you need to pull some names, I think he would be a cool guy to kind of bring back to help celebrate the 50th year anniversary in the Super Juniors.
And nobody from Dragon Gate, that goes without saying.
Yeah. Viking Payne asks, a non-NJPW related but a big story in the wrestling world, Triple H has officially retired from wrestling after complications with his heart. What was your favorite Triple H match and moment, and where would you rank him in the all-time greats?
It's a tough question. For me, and I mean, I'm just going off the top of my head. I think my favorite match with him is the 3 Stages of Hell match with Stone Cold Steve Austin from No Way Out 2001. Although a lot of people don't like that he went over on Austin, which I get. That match might be low key like the best WWE match of that decade. And that's like one of their highest decades. And people I don't think really recognize that match for actually, you know what? I'm sorry. Okay, I forgot. I'm always torn between that and then there is Cactus Jack versus Triple H from
Hell in a Cell.
No, not from No Way Out, from Royal Rumble, the street fight.
Yeah.
I like the street fight better from 2000. Those are both so tough, man. Those are like my 2 favorite Triple H matches. I have quite a few though.
Yeah, I loved, that the 02 rivalry with Shawn Michaels, the
I knew you were going to bring up the Shawn match.
Yeah, the SummerSlam street fight. I love that match, and I love they had a 3 Stages of Hell match also at one point.
I like their TV match from New Year's Eve in 2003.
Oh, the match where Shawn was like a dusty finish, like Shawn won, but he pinned himself.
That might be their best like straight up match that they had.
Yeah.
As far as favorite Triple H moment, I don't know. I don't really think of Triple H as like a moment, a guy that sticks out in my like fandom of moments like that. Can you think of a moment? Probably when he came back from at the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, we came back
And they're
from
playing like U2, like it's a beautiful day. And he's like, and him and Stephanie, like all that shit. Like that's probably it.
He's like a baby face for like a month or whatever.
Yeah, he was so hot, and then they killed him.
Yeah, then he had to become a heel again.
He had a terrible rivalry with Jericho, and then he lost to Hulk Hogan.
I mean, I guess a lot of the early DX stuff, and invading WCW on the tank.
That shit doesn't resonate with me. I don't know why. I did like when he formed the New DX.
Yeah.
But even now, New DX only lasted for so long.
Yeah. I mean,
it was me, Austin. I don't know.
he gave us NXT. I guess that's I don't know if that's like a moment, but
what about his racism against Booker T?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm not a big Triple H guy. As far as like all-time greats, he's definitely top 100 of all time. Easily. He's easily in the top 100 wrestlers of all time.
Yeah.
Maybe top 75.
Yeah,
maybe.
I don't have Triple H, cracking a top 10 or anything. I mean, good worker. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel he excelled in more plunder matches. Rich,
just say he's a deathmatch guy,
that deathmatch wrestler, like Rich likes to call him. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Also, he's been a part of several big matches and moments in WWE, and all that is due to politicking and who he ended up marrying. But I mean, he definitely is going to have an impact and a legacy in the business. But as far as like when you compare him to everybody, even if you just narrowed it down just to WWF, like I don't know.
If it was just WWF, he's a top like 25 guy. He's not top 75. I gotta take that back. He could be top 100. I don't know. I'm not a big Triple H guy. There's just so many wrestlers that he deserves all his flowers. There's no doubt about that. But there's just like, dude, there's so many great wrestlers that have ever existed. Triple H, this might be a hot take, but Triple H might be the most overrated guy that won the world title as many times as he did. I don't know if there's ever been anyone that won the world title in that, like, he's like a 15-time champion or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he rates up there with like Ric Flair or Harley Race or, Luthez or Vern Gagne or Okada or Brock Lesnar or John Cena or Bret Hart or Hulk Hogan or The Rock or any of those guys. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't.
Yeah, his push was like way more over than he actually was.
Yes.
Yeah. But,
But I'll turn on Triple H every now and again. I mean, he's got a lot of matches I like.
Yeah.
Triple H, Undertaker matches with Randy Orton, matches with Cena,
Yeah. So last question here from
Ultimate Warrior. It's good shit.
Last question here from Barry Walls says, something you said last week about Jeff Cobb and being the number 2 guy in a group got me thinking. Suzuki must be almost at that point in time he gets ousted as a group leader, and I have heard some people talk of Taichi-gun or Ibushi-gun, but would a Saber-gun work and be a sweet play on words, or do you see, or who do you see as taking over?
I don't know specifically. I mean, this show's been going on for years and years and years. And when we first started, this was a question we were getting on the regular from, and I'm not saying this is you, but like, because I think this is more plausible in 2022, but like in 2018, we had individuals on the show that were like, I know it's about to happen. Taichi's taking over, or Zach is taking over. This is happening. And I'm like, they have not like even kind of hinted that this is happening. This is wishful thinking on a certain segment of the fan base's part. But over the years, we've seen things like just this past year. Remember the G1 when Taichi beat Suzuki, and that seemed like to be a really important kind of seminal moment. we've seen passing of the guard moments through the years with him and Zach and him and Taichi, and it's kind of become clear that they're probably viewed as, even though he's the head of the group, they're in terms of competitive singles competitors, they're probably ahead of him at this point, just due to age and their slotment in the company. Does that mean that I think that there's going to be a hostile takeover? Could be. That'd be in line with the history of the group, but not necessarily. Another thing that's in the history of the group is, over a decade or more of loyalty to Suzuki amongst all these members, and dying binding loyalty between the members. So could there be a thing where we see him sort of relinquish his leadership and kind of appoint an heir apparent? I think that's on the way. I mean, we're already seeing him not walk out to his music in groups, but we're seeing them walk out to Taichi's music or walk out to Zach's music. In my honest opinion, I think Taichi's going to be the guy. I think they're slowly preparing Taichi, and have been over the past 3 or 4 years, to be the guy to, in some role or capacity, sort of take over for Minoru Suzuki. So how it happens, I don't know. But I don't think Suzuki is too long for being the leader of his group, at this point.
Yeah, I think it'd probably be more likely to happen when he's ready to retire, or at least maybe leave New Japan full time. I think that they'll maybe make the shift there in to Taichi. I think Taichi is, I agree with you, is probably the more likely thing. But again, like you mentioned, we started this show in November 2017, and since then, people have asked us questions. People have made bold declarations that we're getting a Sabre goon, that we're getting a Taichi goon, and it just hasn't happened yet. Suzuki's still going. He's still out here making these dates and, wrestling all kind of weird people, WrestleMania weekend, and having matches. So I think I think we're seeing a slow wind down Suzuki. I think when it comes to time where, he's not going to be a full-time New Japan guy anymore, I think then we'll see Taichi take over.
Yeah.
So last thing here, excursion / recommended match of the week, and I do want to thank some people who have given their feedback. I know last week we kind of talked about changing the format and doing an excursion match of the week, and last week I picked Jay White and Alex Shelley from Impact, and it does seem like a couple of people kind of like the way we have traditionally done recommended match of the week, where we kind of stick to more New Japan, older classic matchups. A lot of people recently getting in New Japan, they like when we go deeper and watch stuff they've never seen before, or find those hidden gems on New Japan World. So I think what we're gonna do is, I believe Josh has another excursion pick for this week. Then we're gonna throw out a poll on Twitter, have you guys vote if you want us to move forward with doing excursion match of the week, or would you prefer to stick with recommended match of the week?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, if you're at this point of the show, you're one of the diehards, so you know what the deal is. And I mean, we did have some people kind of say hey, maybe you stick with recommended match of the week and then sprinkle in an excursion match here or there. And just to kind of explain, that's fine. I think we already kind of do that with recommended match of the week every once in a while. And we're talking very rarely will we throw in an outside New Japan match. Like one time, Jeremy did a Nagata match from WCW. I threw out a Desperado match from Produce Show, when he wrestled in a death match. So we've done stuff like that. But the whole point of recommended match of the week is me and Jeremy providing you folks, as well as each other, a match that maybe we're not as familiar with, so we can kind of analyze it, watch it, and then spread the word so people basically get exposed to more New Japan, especially older stuff, and watch great classic matches, which is awesome. At the same time, we have not had a lot of engagement from individuals about this. So, I mean, if you do enjoy it, let us know, because we haven't, over the whole time we've been doing it, heard too many comments or even known if that's really been a benefit to anybody. On the flip side, the idea of excursion match, just to kind of give you guys the rundown, is there's so many matches occurring right now in the greater wrestling world outside of New Japan rings that involve New Japan stars, and we cover an excursion match of the year. And it's very hard to be watching the current product and those matches. And so we thought that it might be better for the audience listening at home if we're able to say, hey, go check out this Jay White match from AEW, or hey, go check out this Ishii match from Impact, or this TJP match that happened in CMLL. Because these are things that are a little bit more current that people are not watching. And, you know, if we did go that way, we're not going to we're not going to commingle it with the recommended matches, because the whole idea is to basically work up our regiment of excursion matches so we have a good body of viewing for the year, so that the awards are kind of served in that way. And we can tell you guys, hey, this match sucked, don't watch it. Hey, this match was very good, we recommend it. Or hey, this is an all-time match of the year, it's probably going to get nominated, go out of your way to see it. One of the detriments of that is we might end up, if we do excursion match, we might end up watching matches that are subpar, that aren't maybe necessarily classics. Whereas like with recommended match, we're always probably going to be watching stuff that's very, very, very good. So we're going to do one more excursion match of the year, or excursion match, recommended excursion match of the week this week. And then we're going to put out a poll, and you guys let us know which of those two ideas sounds better to you. Do you want us to talk about outside matches that involve current New Japan stars that are happening in real time to kind of expand your wrestling viewing and help us with the awards? Or would you rather us watch the classic stuff and give those recommendations so you can kind of broaden your deeper knowledge of New Japan? You tell us, because that's kind of the conundrum. But we're not going to do both, because that kind of doesn't serve what we're trying to do in either regard, if that makes sense.
Yeah, great explanation there. So what'd you think of Jay White versus Alex Shelley?
I thought this was really good. You know what's funny is I thought that I got this confused with the match that he had with Eric Young, which I'd heard good but not great things about. So when you recommended it, that's kind of the expectation. I didn't go to Cage Match. I didn't read any reviews, so I didn't have a high expectation of this match going into it. And I was really blown away. Like, this was one of the best excursion matches I've seen this year. Very, very, very good, especially like with all the backstory between, we talked about this in the past, that like when Jay White was in Ring of Honor, he kind of served as a protege to the Motor City Machine Guns and kind of was under them. And so he was like a trainee of theirs and a young boy to them. And sort of that's where this whole thing with him and Chris Sabin, him and Alex Shelley is kind of stemming from. And they've even got a whole ongoing rivalry, not just in Strong, but also continuing on in Impact. So taking a look at Cage Match, I kind of saw how that's playing out, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. But this match was very, very good. I mean, Alex Shelley is a guy who's had some really great matches this year, kind of gets underrated, I think, a bit just because of the exposure. But there were like a lot of points at the tail end where I just thought Alex Shelley had Jay White's number. But, ultimately Jay is the best counter wrestler like out there, and he's able to catch guys with his finish from almost any position. Kind of reminds me of DDP with the Diamond Cutter in a certain way. Sort of has that, like, it can come from out of nowhere. And considering what the move itself is and the mechanics of it, you wouldn't think he'd be able to do that. But very inventive and creative guy. And this crowd was really hot for this match. And they went out there and they had a lot of time. Very athletic, very hard hitting, very, very good. I don't know that I'm quite ready to say that this is for sure gonna be a excursion recommended match of the year. Like, I don't have this on the same level as say like Taichi Doki or Ospreay Michael Oku, but it's probably not far off from like Francesco Akira versus Gabe Kidd. It's probably like in that 4.25, 4.5 range. So it's very, very, very good. And considering its impact, it's probably one of the best Impact matches of the year already. And you know what? People in Cage Match probably have a higher opinion of this match than even I do. And I really liked it a lot. So I thought this was a fantastic pick. And the good news is it's on New Japan World. So if you haven't seen it, it's available for wide viewing. It's right there. So, I would definitely recommend that match. I liked it a lot, and I thought it was a great pick.
Yeah, it's similar to you. You know, I've always been a fan of Shelley, and like I didn't know what to expect from this matchup. Like I didn't know if it was going to be, a fine, Impact match. But yeah, this was a really good matchup here. Like you mentioned, Shelley is so underrated. I think if he was on bigger platforms, he'd be getting more love. But yeah, they told a great story. It was hard hitting, snug, and yeah, like you mentioned, Jay White catches Shelley at the end there, and we got this whole machine gun Bullet Club rivalry happening in Impact right now, and it's good stuff.
Awesome. So let me ask you this before I make the this week's recommendation. Are you trying to watch something that I've already seen that I know is good that maybe you haven't seen and I want to get your opinion on it? Or do you want to watch something together that neither of us have seen that I don't know how good it is, but it probably is very good?
I think preferably I'd want to watch something that we already know is good.
Okay. Then I'll make it easy for you. My recommendation is from November 26th, CMLL Super Viernes. This falls within our grading period, and it's TJP versus Volador Jr. I sent the clip to you already. I can resend it, but it is available on YouTube as well as on New Japan World. But I recommend the YouTube version. The version on New Japan World has the Japanese commentary, and it's the picture-in-picture. It's not as good, but very easily accessible, and one of a very, very, very good match. I highly recommend it, and kind of falls into that whole United Empire versus CMLL feud that was happening at the tail end of last year.
Nice. Well, I'll definitely check that out. I miss seeing Volador in action in a New Japan ring. Hopefully that's a guy that, I don't know stats of Mexican wrestlers being able to come over, but we'll love to see him and Dragon Lee back in Super Juniors. But yeah, definitely check out this Volador TJP match.
Cool. So we will review that match for next week, and then we will shoot out the poll sometime this week and get everybody's take and opinion as to whether they want us to continue with this format or go back to recommend a match of the week.
Yep. And
or maybe we just scrap it all together.
Well, that's going to wrap things up for us this week. Next week, we'll be back to review the Lonestar Shootout and preview Hyper Battle. If you enjoyed today's show, please consider making a donation. Visit socialsuplex.com/donate and click on the donate button under the Keepin It Strong Style logo. Make sure you connect with us on social media on Twitter. The show is at KI Strong Style. You can follow the network at Social Suplex. Follow me at Jeremy L. Donovan. On Facebook, we're facebook.com/Social Suplex. Also, you can find us in the Wrestling Squared Circle Facebook group, facebook.com/group/Wrestling Squared Circle. On Instagram, we're at Social Suplex. On Reddit, I'm the Pro Black Guy, just keeping it strong style. You can email me, jeremy@socialsuplex.com. Check out all the shows that we have here on the Social Suplex Podcast Network. One Nation Radio, hosted by Rich Latta and James Boyd. The Grave Consequences Podcast, hosted by Caleb and Maserati. All Things Elite, hosted by Floyd and Austin. The AEW Match Guy Podcast, hosted by Sir Sam. And the Great Match Generator, hosted by Danny. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a rating and review. And we will catch you next week on Keeping It Strong Style, the ace of podcasts.
Ichiban.
Thank you for listening to Keepin' It Strong Style. We'll see you next time.